You guys are like awkwardly quiet. Like as soon as I said, "All right, we're gonna start."
Did you start?
Yeah, that's a JPI warning. We started. Oh man, no. I was just like, "All right, we're gonna start," and then I realized everybody's like,
I was waiting for you to say JPI warning. I was waiting for you. All right, we're gonna start JPI warning, and then there was no JPI warning. So I'm like,
So did we really start? There was no JPI.
Oh no, I just said JPI warning. What do you? I just said it out loud. I swear.
Did the bear actually shit in the woods? I don't know.
Who says that? Wait. All right, everybody,
All right, let's go.
everybody live and everybody online that's watching this after the fact. Welcome, guys. We are going to talk today about Ethereal. Clash of Souls, to be exact. Because I totally just found out that there was an Ethereal indie game that's like a focus little thing. I don't know if you guys got that. I was like, what the hell is this? I just clicked on the wrong link. But, yeah, I mainly wanted all of us together, at least my intent for all of us getting together, right, was clearing the air. Because even though Mangoose and Jellynees, they already do a great job of informing their communities with whether it be enter the ether over on Mangoose's channel, whether it be the kind of how frequently are your updates on the official Ethereal one? Maybe like 2 weeks I've seen right now.
On the
like twice a month.
The community corner,
Discord,
community corner.
We have an update, and then Patreon also has an update every week.
Cool.
And community corners are twice a month.
Got it. Okay.
Also, I just want to point out that Enter the Ether is also on Jellynees' channel. We alternate weeks. So
true.
Then
follow both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Worth mentioning. Thank you.
I just learned something. Thank you. Now I'm
He's been counting up odd like every other number for a year now. That's kind of weird. I don't know,
bro. I'll be honest. I noticed it, and whatever. I was like, maybe he's not a number guy. I don't know. Houses do that shit. Hey, houses do that shit. It'll be like 1050, 1052, 1054. They just fucking skip numbers for no reason. I was like, oh, you know.
You look across the street and see 1051.
I mean, I get you, but I'll be real with you. I like
just learned a life skill.
No, bro, I'll be real. Every time that I watch y'all's video, I swear if both of you are in it, I'd have no idea whose channel I'm on. Unless I go into the rabbit hole deeper, right? And I'm like, all right, let me look at this other video. And I'm like, all right, now I just ended up watching a random cat video for no reason. I've clicked way too down into this rabbit hole. I don't know what just happened with YouTube.
Be on my channel with that.
He said it still could be me.
And in my defense, though, I don't even pay attention to the numbers. Like this last one was timelines and
that's a good point. Yeah,
All right, so it didn't read a number. I was just reading Troublewood timelines, and then I think it said Ethereal went at the end or something like that. So like that's what I read. I didn't read a number, so I wouldn't even thought to think of I just read what's this one's about. This one, got it. And I'm excited for next week. Next week's episode is very exciting. So.
We'll go to Jellynees on that.
That's what I want to hear right now. Let's dig right into that. What do you guys have? Because I was talking about, we want in the comments, like, what has the other games done well that you'd like to see carry forward into Ethereal, and what have the other games done wrong that you'd like to not see in Ethereal? You guys are Fault guys. What has Fault done right, in your opinion, that you would like to see carried forward into Ethereal?
Ooh, I thought I was doing the interviewing here.
Nope, not anymore. This is on you now.
Hold up. Can we go back? Can we end this so I can script it? I have not scripted for this.
No, just do like a Windu video. Just get up and walk away for 30 seconds and come back.
I drank so much of this. I'll be back, guys.
Shake up a sugar packet and pour it into your water real quick.
Well, if it would be easier, what has Fault done wrong that you'd like to see corrected in a different game?
So I have both of those answers. Would you like me to go, Bearded? Because I see you got those cold feet for a second. You're like, whoa.
No, I literally was not expecting it.
I asked Bearded. So let's get Bearded's answer.
Oh fuck!
Before we move on,
you know what bad radio is? Silence. That's what we're gonna get here for a second.
It hasn't been silent yet. We're waiting.
Oh my god. No, so I'll give him a chance to collect. So here's my thing on it, right? I've seen positive and negatives out of all of these Paragon projects and Ethereal, right? And we all can go down, you know, memory lane, talk about the past and everything, right? Thankfully, Jelly Knees is in the group now. Let's just say that one. But here's my thing about the other projects that I want to see Ethereal do more. Now, you guys are doing a great job of communicating with the community on a bi-weekly basis, just kind of filling them in, right? Like, hey, we went through this in testing, we're answering Q&A, etc. That's dope. That's honestly, that in its own is amazing. I do caution the every 2 weeks because sometimes not enough shit is going to happen in 2 weeks, right? But a minimum of once a month would be dope as far as community corner. I will say also, I would like to see more social media posts that aren't necessarily videos. Because there was a nice little influx in the past there for a little bit. Like, hey, you know what? He was like one random voice line, you feel me, with a picture, and just loop that shit. Like, you specifically, Jelly Knees, are a master of turning one picture into 10 fucking minutes. You for damn sure are a master of that, right? So I think that the Ethereal should really just do that a little bit more. But one thing that I saw today, and literally just got posted today, was almost like an inside look as to, hey, this is us working on the project behind the scenes. Literally just like a camera over the shoulder. It was a dude drawing, just digital artwork, and then it cuts later down the road to a 3D model version of it. Very rough, but working on it, right? And then it cuts to something a little bit more finalized product. But it's just showing the developer's side. And, you know, like we live in a day and age that a lot of people are interested in all the game designing and programming. Like, starting up an indie company is something that a lot of people want to go through. Who knows who you might be able to recruit into the team by posting videos like that. You get me? Showing the creativity behind the team, not just in the game. Showing and giving more life to the team in its own. Because one thing that I've seen out of all these teams is the fact that if I ask you right now, who are the top 3 best content creators in every team of devs, you guys probably wouldn't be able to tell me an accurate list unless you're personally familiar with the team. The average viewer might not be able to tell me. You get me?
Yeah.
Just putting a face to a name is something that I really, really think could help a ton. I've seen company like Overprime. They did a Q&A with one of their lead developers and they named him, right? So you see a face, you see a name. He's literally just sitting there in front of a group of people asking questions and he's answering them. It might be very simplistic, but it helps connect the community to the team. And I think as an indie growing company, if the team believes in you, even if you fuck up, I know they got a good team. You feel me?
Yeah. So for the, like you said, the kind of actual development side, so like concept arts into models, into animations, the whole nine
Which
yards.
there are pictures. Go ahead, sorry.
That is actually something we're working on developing further right now. That's been brought up in the past that I think is a great idea. So we're working on getting the people that are comfortable doing that themselves, recording their progress and doing all of those things, and getting that more in the works for down the line. I won't say that that's coming soon, that kind of content is coming soon, but it's something we're working on developing out further. For the like Q&A, like you said, getting a dev up in front and having those Q&As, that's what those live community corners are going to be. The pre-recorded ones are going to be more of the like, here's new information for you guys and answering a couple questions that like we saw somewhere or we think are good questions to answer. But then the live ones where we can do a lot more of that call and response type Q&A work, that's where those are the majority of time is going to be spent on that information.
So I think you guys have been doing great with all those, TBH. Whether it be like I said, on your personal channels, community corner, it's dope. It's dope. I'll be real. I'm shocked that they still let you do the whole Mangoose back and forth thing, etc. Because usually when you see somebody kind of get absorbed by a team, it's like, hey, you're ours now. That content that you make is for us. So it's dope.
It was one of those things that before, when I was joining the team, I told them, like, at the bare minimum, Mangoose and I are doing Into the Ether. Like that's a thing that I started with Mangoose that we talked about over a year ago, that we really thought up long before it started, that I was not willing to abandon just because I was joining the team in some capacity.
Oh, Mangoose, the loyalty. I love it.
Yeah, that is great, actually. And but you said it in, I just watched them both recently, so I don't know if it was Into the Ether or it was Into the Ether. You said you were a volunteer.
I am,
for
yes.
UG, right? So you being a volunteer is a lot like me and Windu being partners for Fault. Like we're tied to the company, but we're not like tied. So when we do partner panel, it is our own episode that we do for Fault. That's not tied to SMS. You know, that's not like, hey, SMS, like they approve of this or whatever. And we're allowed to be as honest as we want. So I think you with your agreement might have a little bit more like what you can and can't say. Obviously you're under NDA, so you can't say a lot of things in there, but you still have the ability. And from what I understand as a volunteer, you still have the ability to go out and make your own content, you know, like as long as you don't break NDA, I think you should be fine in that regard.
Yeah, I would say it's probably like a middle ground of like what you guys do for partner panel and being like a full-fledged employee, where I kind of have a little bit of leeway there, but I can talk about things. I can't break NDAs. I can't reveal things. I'm also privy to information that I'm part of the decision-making process of how things get released, when they get released, and all of that. So there's a little bit of finagling that goes on there. But like Windu said with my videos, right? I can take an image and break it down into a 30-minute video. So almost any topic that Mangoose and I can talk about, I can just do that same thing without having to go into the things that I may know being as part of the team as well.
Right. All right. So now to answer Mangoose's question, I need to kind of preface it with something, and you guys might kick me out of this group here soon. When I started following all of the Parazombies, right? That Paragon was a huge thing for me, and I started following all the Parazombies, and that's how I found about Ethereal, right? I saw Ethereal, and the idea of the 3-lane stacking was hella interesting. I'm like, ooh, that's like, okay, I'm interested. It doesn't have any of my, my characters that I enjoy playing with Paragon, but I'm interested. And then there, that time frame that, hey, we're coming out this time, and then that got pushed back, and then it got pushed back again. It just kind of made me like, okay, I'll wait until something big actually happens. So I've actually taken my foot off the gas of following Ethereal. So I really don't know. So when I answer the question, if it's something that's already been done, just let me know, because I really haven't been following that closely, just to be 100% honest. But this here is like really, and seeing the video, the Into the Ether, this last recent video, it really gets me excited. I really do want to start following it more, because just the gameplay itself was a lot better than the most recent video a video you guys posted, and like the walking and like the wings was not moving very well. I'm like, they look like they're a lot farther from, this gate. Like I thought the game was coming out soon. I'm like, nope, they got some time to work. And the mocap suit, like you referenced, is going to be better for that. But what I want to see is something that I enjoyed out of Fault and Predecessor was, like Sergeant Smokey, like streaming the game and like showing the things what he like, this is what we're working on, and getting the community involved. Oh, you think this is what we need to do? All right, let's make this change, and then he maybe like go off screen real quick and then make the change. All right, now how's it look? And then Sylphid streaming the game. Oh, like what are you gonna do with Countess's kit? And then kind of getting the community involved that way. That's something I loved with both of those communities, and how they getting them all involved. That's something I would love to see Ethereal do. And then with going off of what Windu was saying, I think it'd be cool to do something like get to know the devs, like little behind the scene, how you guys joke around together, a little recording, like, hey, this is, like watch, I don't know anybody's names. Watch Jim as he's sculpting this, the new myth that we're gonna have, and the jokes that are being made together, and I know it's a lot harder because with COVID and everything, everybody's kind of working from home or whatever, so it's a lot harder to do that. But like when you guys are actually in studio together, if that gets back to being that time, kind of getting a little behind the scenes, like this is, hey, welcome to the studio, guys, and do like a little like almost like a live stream, but like walk around, ask us questions, get to know people, and hear they're hard at work, doing mocap stuff, and hear they're hard at work doing this. Something like that would be amazing to see. I think that would be real great for the community to be like, okay, I'm excited, and get to know, you just kind of get to it's almost like when you're watching your favorite TV show, right? You just get hooked on like the characters, like, oh man, I relate to so and so. I can't wait to watch the next episode. Then you see somebody like, oh my gosh, that's all. Or somebody's wearing a shirt. I love that band, and like now I'm a huge fan because like, the lead director or whatever wears the same shirt that I wear, whatever, some random thing like that. You just kind of make connections and you see stuff that I think that'd be great to see as well. Yeah,
I think it's being able to ground the community to Undying games, I think is huge, right? Being able to have them relate, have them understand, they can experience some of the things that we do internally of talking about new kits, talking about the map, talking about changes, silly things, whatever it may be. And we tried to get a little bit into that a little more with the like blooper section of the community corner that we did, right? Showing it's not just promoting like serious game all the time. That's all there ever is. Right. It's like, no, there are funny moments that we want to share with you guys, right? The stuff like that exists that we can share more of throughout time. So definitely I will take that back into consideration and kind of try and get the team moving toward that end as well.
Out of both to Windu and Bearded's point, talking about development and everything, I think Ethereal took a huge step forward. And sorry, Jelly, I'm going to embarrass you here. But when they added Jelly to the team and Skifter to the team, that was a massive step forward, because before they would try to like have these little dry runs of information and tidbits that would come out. They would try these various things. They would go for maybe 2 months and then they would just fade away and nobody would ever hear from it again, because they had people that were passionate about the game, but not to the degree that like Jelly is. Like Jelly has been following and has been very passionate about this game for a long time. And that really comes through in their new community corners and their posts and everything like that. So that's been a huge improvement for them. And also Skifter, when like you were talking about with Sergeant Smokey showing like his work on the game, Skifter is a programmer and he's a great programmer. And him and Jelly work together hand in hand quite a bit. And you can see that in the community corners. You can see that those two are friends, that they
good chemistry,
communicate well together, and that they play the game together, and that it's, that's really good to see. That's great stuff to see.
Thanks, Mangus. I appreciate that.
Yeah, bro. Like I was saying earlier, like Mangus just said, shout out to them for snatching you. Because that really, they got you for the cheap. That's all I'm saying. But I do want to preface just one thing real quick, too. So in the chat, Big G is saying, I haven't heard anything about Ethereal until today. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I do want to just kind of throw a clear indicator out there. If you don't know what Ethereal is a third-person MOBA that oftentimes gets correlated to Paragon, probably just because it's a third-person MOBA, you get me? Mm-hmm. Even though it's not a direct successor, a lot of people think it might be just because Paragon fans basically ended up making Ethereal. You get what I'm saying? So if
that, and you have you have Windu, you have Mangoose, and you have Briddick, who are all making videos of these para-zombies, and then Ethereal comes out, so now they all start making videos about that as well. And that's how I found it. I was watching a Briddick video and he's, oh, look, a new third-person MOBA. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll sit here and watch this, and that's what got me interested in it. So stuff like that, you have those, those people who are related or correlated to a para-zombie or Paragon is now why Ethereal kind of gets tied in with it. And it is a third person MOBA, so it makes sense for them to all kind of be in the same.
It's the same genre, so
right.
It makes sense.
Real quick, I actually want to clarify something. Most of the original developers for Ethereal actually never played Paragon.
Oh, really?
The game originally was in production just before Paragon died, and then it kind of got roped in with the Para-Zombies as they all picked up steam because of like Mangoose, Briddick, Nabori, right? A lot of the content creators that then talked about Ethereal in some capacity then thereafter. So it they kind of merged together, but Paragon, it's never been a Paragon successor, and it wasn't originally created by Paragon refugees either.
See, I was actually under the opposite impression because I knew it was being built before the shutdown of Paragon even got announced, right? Mm-hmm. I knew it wasn't related to that.
Yeah.
But I was actually under the impression that a lot of the people if not all of the staff had either played Paragon or enjoyed playing Paragon and were like, hey, we could do our own thing. You know what I mean? So
if I can be honest, I mean, I think the biggest, Mangoose, I'm sorry. The biggest Paragon player on our team is me. So it's that when I joined the team, I was bringing a lot of that Paragon knowledge to the rest of them. Jesus Christ.
He's not talking about height. He's talking about dick size.
God damn. Okay.
Yeah.
I can only see this high. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, Jelly's packing. I've seen him say that before. One,
I'm also surprised that he's sitting down. I think all of Jelly's videos I've ever seen, he's always standing up in his videos. So I'm surprised I see a chair right now. Okay.
Most of them for sure.
So sorry for derailing you, Jelly. That's
no, you're fine.
Specialty.
Mangoose, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, because you got Owen, Noxus, and Kai are the original developers of Ethereal. And their idea, like the way Ethereal came about, was that they were looking at these League of Legends trailers and being like, what if the game looked like the trailer? Like, what if we made a MOBA that actually looked like these League of Legends trailers and made that a thing? Which is interesting because you know who else said that about their MOBA was Steve Superville. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a parallel thinking sort of thing. They came up with this idea. They never played Paragon, but they came up with this idea of a third-person MOBA based on wouldn't it be cool if MOBAs looked like their trailers? That's how Paragon came about. That's how Ethereal came about. So there are parallels there, but Ethereal is not inspired by Paragon. Maybe a little bit at this point. There's probably some influence that has come through, but at the beginning, that was not the case.
I think it's kind of like you've said, Mangoose, of like the good things from other 3D MOBAs that Ethereal can kind of emulate and kind of make their own. I think some of a good example of that is Paragon. There are a lot of good things about Paragon that we all love that are good things that we can be like, that was a great idea. Let's do our version of that. Let's improve it, whatever we can on that end. And like you said, a big thing for Ethereal was trying to make it look like the trailers. And toward that end, it's also the core character design was if you have it, you can use it. If you have a shield and a sword and shield, your abilities and your kit are going to involve the sword and shield. You're not going to get characters that have a sword and shield, but then only use the sword. Right. So it's trying to make them more true to what you see than just what you assume. And I real quick want to get back to the question in the chat of whether or not, because that hearing about Ethereal now, whether or not that's a good or bad thing. For the most part, Ethereal has not tried to get out to the player base at large because we're not at that point. The game's not playable to the masses yet. We're entering a very early stage of development when it is playable to people. So it's trying to gauge interest, but at the same time, we're not trying to put it out there so everyone can come in and say, well, this is not done yet. Why am I here?
You're not pushing it.
Exactly. It's trying to find that balance of bringing people in to be excited about the game, but without disappointing people that it's still a ways off in terms of full release.
I also want to answer that question too, because and the answer to that question, in my opinion, is it's good that you found out now and not earlier. Mm-hmm. And because of the reasons of all of the changes. And I wanted to ask you, we talked earlier, Jelly, I wanted to talk to you about the development changes and how things are going. Like when you first heard about Ethereal, it was going to be this, literally top lane, mid lane, bottom lane. They literally stacked on top of each other, and it was 3D, everything. That's what the first initial idea of this was, and it was going to be great. And that's what got me hooked. I was excited for it. Not saying that I'm not excited anymore, but that was like my first initial. And then they said, hey, we're no longer going with this. How does So yes, I would say it's better for you to find out now, right? Because you didn't get that excitement. Now have to make your change. You have to change your mindset and understand what the developers are doing. But how does that, as a developer, well, not a developer, yes, but
as part of the team,
being part of the team, how does that affect the development? Or does that, because outside looking in, it looks like it's a setback. It looks like, hey, we've been pushing for this, and now we have to make changes. Like, we're now, hey, we got to scratch that. You know, we're almost like, hey, whatever we've already done, we now have to. Everything's different now. You know, and then hey, and then you made that. Then it was what was it after that? Was it? Is it still staggered or
check mark? Still staggered the way it is.
So it's okay. So I think what I thought maybe it was supposed to be like two at the same side, then one down. I don't know. I thought there was some difference.
Yeah, it's like a check mark right now, basically. So you have one that's a little bit higher, one that's in the middle, and then the bottom is like the lowest piece.
Okay. So I mean, how does that work? How is the team working through that and pushing and then not making it more of a positive instead of a negative as it could be perceived by the community?
Yeah. So I think with like you, I joined the community when that was the main thing. That was the main draw, right? I saw a Mangoose video that said like, this MOBA is going to be a vertical map, just straight up. That's all it is. And then the change was made about a year ago that the map is no longer that way. And the reason for that is it was a logistical nightmare in terms of balance, in terms of just the core design of the map, rotations, all of that kind of stuff made it really, really difficult to do something that could be potentially competitive or that could feel unique in a way that felt fair to certain players or certain types of characters or certain things like that. Right? With the vertical tiered map, you also are rendering resources at the same time that you wouldn't necessarily have to render on locally if the map was flatter and more spread out. Because everything's, let's say you're rendering a cylinder on top of your character, right? You're rendering everything in that cylinder vertical in a vertical axis. So you're rendering 3 times as much as you need for,
as opposed to the ceiling, just to the ceiling
bit of screen that you can see.
Yep.
So that also limited some of the performance that was possible at that moment with the team that we had. So the checkmark lane setup was the kind of fix to that, was to spread them out a little bit more so you can still have the separation. You're not rendering as much all at once, but it's also still a unique design in that they're not connected. They're not a truly flat map. They're separated. You can jump from one lane to another depending on where you are. And so it's separating those out and giving those lanes more of an identity aside from just being top, mid, and bottom, which is why they're fire, ice, and void. And so it's going into more of that concept of giving the fairness and the separation while still keeping that sense of verticality in the lanes themselves.
I like it. I'll be real. Like I wasn't particularly, I didn't feel any any type of way about the changing from vertical to the whole checkmark portion, etc. I think the verticality is still a super cool aspect, a challenge nonetheless, because like you mentioned, the rendering, the optimization, you gotta be on point with all those assets so that you can't just be wasting resources, right? So it's a tough road ahead, to say the least. Not saying that you guys aren't prepared to handle it, but due to the fact that it's a ambitious goal that you're aiming for, there's definitely a steady road ahead. Now, I'm actually curious as to the fact that since the team, let's focus on the Kickstarter. There was a Kickstarter. The way Kickstarter works, in case those of you don't know, if you miss your goal even by $1, they'll just cancel the goal. That doesn't mean that there wasn't funding. That doesn't mean that there wasn't support. It just means that, hey, the technical goal wasn't accomplished. So we're just going to reset everything. Everybody gets refunded, right? So I'm actually curious as to what are the next steps as far as plans for funding. Because me being a business guy, I know you guys are going to need money. I know that it's essential, especially if you want to ramp up the production, the speed. I know you got plenty of people that are working for free, like yourself, right? And it's one of those things that money is needed sooner rather than later, but it's a very careful road to go down. You don't want to just like start asking for money like crazy, etc. I do think that the Patreon is a great idea, which I'll let you talk about in a little bit. But what's the mindset there as far as monetization leading up to increasing production?
Yeah. So going from the Kickstarter, right, like you said, it didn't meet that $70,000 threshold that was set, and from there, it was of course sad for us and a little disheartening to have that happen, right? Because it was, of course, you want it to go gangbusters, you want it to go way above that 70,000. But at the same time, we weren't 100% counting on those Kickstarter funds for the sake of the project. Definitely, were they needed? Absolutely. But they weren't the end all be all of the project. Otherwise, after the Kickstarter, the project would cease to exist.
Correct.
Right? So the thing that helps with that are the NFTs from before, right? That gave us a huge kind of breathable space when those launched. Gave us that little bit of income we needed to progress forward, to kind of get to these next steps of the pre-alpha release and getting people into the game and doing these other things, as well as leading into the Kickstarter or the Patreon as it stands now. So it's, for the funding aspect, we're kind of looking at all avenues of how to acquire that funding. We're looking at grants from different people like Epic Games. The Epic Games grant, of course, is an obvious one to look at. So there are a lot of those that we can go toward that avenue, or have gone toward that avenue and are looking for those things. There's always the avenue of traditional investment if we wanted to go that route. And so it's just kind of gauging what we need in our current state, as well as what we need to accomplish at the same time.
More of the short term, long term, as opposed to it. Because like I was saying, it's a very careful road. You don't want to come out and be like, all right, this monetization structure, and then it's a little bit too aggressive. People might be like, whoa, relax. You don't got enough to show, etc. But the one thing that I did want to talk about, and I know you and I talked about this behind the scenes there, Jetly, is the NFT conversation. Because we know that Steam, as of lately, has banned all use of games related to NFT and or blockchains. Now, we talked about it, and as you mentioned, it's not really a worry for you guys. And I'll be real, NFTs might low-key be the future of gaming and funding and everything, like transactions, value, etc. There's a lot there. But you mentioned that you guys are going to have your own client and not worry about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the Steam ban, we don't have to worry about that in two reasons. One, because our initial plan is to have our own client. We're going to do it completely separate. It's not going to be on Epic Games Store. It's not going to be on Steam to start, because we want to have our own client. We want to be able to go that route and not have to worry about kind of the big brother over our shoulder looking at this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. In addition, that NFT ban for Steam games is more tied to the direct purchase or involvement in kind of the core gameplay of those games. There are a lot of games that are based around NFTs. There are a lot of games that are based around the blockchain, and Ethereal's not that, first and foremost, right? There's no, the furthest the NFTs go for in terms of in-game is a profile icon.
Yeah, like avatars.
Right? So it's not, you don't gain an advantage, you don't gain extra boosts, you don't gain any of that kind of stuff. They're, for the most part, separated other than that profile icon.
Which is still cool though, because it still provides value.
Say that again.
Yeah.
It's still cool though. Like, even if it's only up to the profile icon, having unique profile icons, having that tradable value that might honestly increase in value based off of rarity and such, because it's definitely an expandable market, even if you only go as far as avatars. I still think it's a dope idea. It's a great way to fund. It's a great way to get community engagement, community trading, etc. Right? Just another buzz and form of revenue for the game. So I'm all for it, to be honest.
And like you said, the thing we saw with the NFTs is what that potential is, right? The NFTs were kind of not a Hail Mary, but kind of a like, let's just see what happens, right? Let's put out the NFTs. The artists wanted to do it. They were the ones who actually came to the team with that idea of producing NFTs and selling them. And it was kind of a, let's see what happens. If the artists want to do that, they get a cut off of what is sold, and then the game gets a cut off of what is sold. So there's nothing really to lose necessarily in doing that. And it showed that it was beneficial for us, right? Netting just over $100,000 in total. That's a huge thing for an indie company to get over the course of 48 hours.
It was very well received. I was shocked, to be honest. Like when I heard the NFTs, I was like, okay, weird flex. I'll look into it. We'll see. But then like, as I saw, I was like, damn, they're really kind of balling out with this shit. This shit's actually kind of hitting home. And it was honestly very beautifully timed. You guys could not have picked a better time to go NFT, because NFTs were on a very high incline throughout. Like you could go into any subject field that you want. NFTs were literally just skyrocketing. So it's a very, very good way to incorporate a game and almost solidify some sort of foundation for the future of the game, right? Like, let's say the game is growing. Let's say player base steadily grows, right? Let's say in a year, the game might not be the most popular game on earth, right? But that doesn't mean it won't be in 2 years. But little things like NFT, a lot of people don't realize there's that monetary foundation there that it would just increase in value and keep going and going. And it's kind of nutty. Now, I want to hit on one little thing here in the chat, because Big G just mentioning, it sounds like we're not going to be able to play this game for a long time. When do you think people might start seeing some gameplay? I'll phrase it that way specifically.
Yeah. So for us, we're actually still on track to have the community able to play the game in a pre-alpha state as of December of this year. So that is still, we're on track for that. I'm really confident about that being the time that we're able to get other people into the game. Now that will be paid access. That is not a free to play environment. That's something that there will be pre-alpha keys that you have to purchase. Now those pre-alpha keys gain you access through further phases of development as well. So it's not like you're going to go pre-alpha. Then alpha, you have to drop another $20. Beta, you have to drop another 20. It's not like that.
Progressive.
Once you're in, you're in. Similar to what Paragon did back when they did the closed tests and you purchased, you were just in from then on.
Yeah, once you're a founder, you're there.
Exactly. Cool. So it'll be like that for the access to the game. Like I said, that'll be December of this year. And then it'll just be progressing through the next phases of development as quickly as possible, as quickly as we feel we need to, but also taking the time that's needed to make sure the game is in a state that we feel comfortable saying we're going from pre-alpha to alpha, alpha to beta, beta to full release. Yeah,
just making sure it's done right, of course. Oh, by the way, people with beards are also welcome to join. Any goatees and full beards allowed, not just clean shaven over here. That's all I'm saying.
And then,
y'all are quiet, bro. Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Free to play.
He's talking. Let him go.
The game will be free to play on full release. So if you aren't comfortable with donating, with putting money up to play the pre-alpha or the phases prior to that, it will be free to play when the game goes full release.
Awesome.
Is there a plan for? All right, so I know you talk about pre-alpha, right? Is there a plan for like Fault right now, early access, and it's still go? Servers are up. We can literally stop this right now. All of us load up Fault. We can play Fault right now. Is that a plan for Ethereal at a point 2 before full release, or
yes,
is
absolutely.
It okay?
We're definitely going to have playable time that is just set up that once it's up, it's up. Like we're just going from there.
Perfect.
Like I said, similar to Paragon, where they had once you started the kind of closed test with the majority of players, right? Then they just had server uptime from then on out to kind of keep that going. Now, part of that I will say is because of monetization, right? When Ethereal is free to play, there has to be monetization in other aspects, being skins or whatever they might be, right? So it's the more uptime we have, of course, there's also more chance for people to buy skins and all of those things. So that helps with the funding of the game in and of itself.
Okay. So I want to go back to, we're going to kind of bounce all over the place here. I want to go back to the mocap suit. And how is the mocap suit going to help you guys Because I mean, I as a sports guy, right? I know how like Madden and college football is made, right? Because literally do the same thing. They actually have players come in and do their own thing, right? So I know how the mocap suit works there, but how is it going to work with the wings? Like you have these. For people who don't know, you guys have character. You have myths that can actually fly. How are you going to get the wings to actually do what you want it to do with the mocap suit, or is that going to be a part of it? Is that going to be added in later? Do you know?
So I don't know particularly. It's not something we've discussed at length. But what I know for other titles that have had characters with wings, there are kind of a couple avenues that you can go down. You can either have that the full body is mocap, and then you'll have to hand animate the wings after the fact, which is painstaking and it takes a long time to make it look really good, especially with something like wings that have to really flow and be natural. The other option is there are additional pieces you can get for mocap suits that you can have basically someone off screen, for lack of a better way to put it, that will manipulate the wings for a mocap suit. And then you can go that route as well of having it still be captured, but just in a slightly different way than your conventional, just being able to move around and walk naturally. So I don't have an answer for you specifically regarding Leah or Zero, but I would imagine we'd go one of those avenues for the wings specifically.
Okay. The second one sounds super dope because I'll be real with you. Even just going like that and then grabbing that bone structure and using it as the point for the wings to move. I mean, you got it. You're just looking for the motion. You feel me?
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Now, you also put in the community corner just recently. You guys are going to have quadrupedal, whatever that.
Yeah, quadrupedal myth. Yeah,
quadrupedal myth. So what part of the mocap suit is Mangoose going to be to get the quadrupedal?
Jelly and I bought a 2-man horse costume.
Yep.
We're going to attach all the little balls to that, and then we're going to run around together.
Bro, that...
I will neither confirm nor deny anything that Mangoose just said.
I would pay to see that.
How much would you pay? How much would you
bro.
Asking for
Hey man. So here's all we got is let's see what the Patreon numbers look like. How about that one? How about that one? That should be a Patreon goal. Cough cough. But so we got an interesting question in the chat actually, asking what do we know if there's any plans as far as communication? Like, is there going to be like open mic? Is that going to be limited to text only? Like, are those kind of talks in the works?
It's something we've definitely talked about. There's no solidified decisions being made on that kind of stuff yet. Chat will absolutely be a thing. You will be able to talk to your team via just basic type chat, right? And we are kind of, before the announcement happened for like League and them disabling their all chat feature, we kind of agree that all chats more often than not leads to toxic situations, or it's easy for me to see Mangoose on the other team and just start calling him out and flaming him regardless, right? That I can just be, because I recognize a name or because I think he's terrible, or I just don't like his face, that I say like, hey, you're funny looking, and try to tilt him for no reason other than I can. Right. So we don't want that to exist. So we're most likely not going to have an all chat function. As for voice comms, like local voice comms, it's something we want to do as well, but it's to figuring out the logistics of that, because in order to monitor those systems, you have to be able to record those voice comms, play them back, go through them. You have to have people to then review that. If there was an issue, that you can then either mute somebody or ban somebody or whatever it needs to be. Which adds
that's a lot of systems in place
to it,
right?
As well as the system itself. Now, I know Unreal Engine has a plugin for voice comms that we've actually looked at already, potentially implementing. But again, it's still figuring out the infrastructure behind that of how to kind of monitor that so it doesn't get out of hand, because it inevitably will, right? There's no such thing as no toxicity in games, right? Even if it's a little bit, a lot of it, it's finding out how to monitor that to keep it a good environment for everyone.
And I'm gonna hit you with a heavy loaded question. Not a crazy question. Not a crazy question. This is one of those simple questions that is just like bam, hard hitting, right? So it actually comes from the chat. the individual and Big G is mentioning, as somebody that's never actually heard about this game until today, it's more like a sales question. They're asking, what would you say is like the one thing about Ethereal, the one thing that people are going to be like, yo, that's why I want to fucking play that game. I know what my answer is. I would just love to hear yours personally.
Yeah, I think
you go first.
Okay.
Yeah, Mangoose. Yeah, go ahead, Mangoose. Talk.
I'll wrap it up. Mangoose.
Okay, bet.
Wait, you went to me?
What do you think? No,
Out of all that,
we're gonna go around. What do you think is the thing?
There is no one thing for Ethereal. It's just the ambitious nature of the game overall. It's the 6v6, it's the flying heroes, it's the checkmark layered map where you could jump from one lane to the other and how everything is affected by that. It's like what Jelly was hitting on before. If a character has wings, they can fucking fly. If a character has a shield, they're going to use that shield in some capacity. There's a lot of really great ideas behind Ethereal that I think a lot of us have had before, but they're actually transcribing those ideas into a game that we can play. That's why I'm excited for Ethereal. Next up, I answer the question.
All right, Bearded.
Why am I part of this? What?
Well, no. Well, here's the thing. No, but here's the reason why I'm asking you, because you very you accurately represent somebody that knows of the game but might not know too much detail. What is your one thing that's like, you know what, I'm gonna check that out?
It's the one thing is the flying characters. So I'm gonna let Jelly answer his question, and then I have a question for that because of my reasoning for loving it. So go ahead and answer, then I'll ask my question.
All right. So my one thing, and kind of apply a caveat to that, is actually 7 things at the moment, but it's all falls under one category, the class system. And so this ties into Bearded's flying, right? These 7 classes, I think, are going to be the thing that people are drawn to for the most part, right? Sure, there are hundreds of aspects of Ethereal that you could be like, that's super rad.
I dropped out of school because of classes, though, so you lost me already.
Right, you can be like the checkered map, boom, I'm in. You can jump off a lane into another one, I'm in, right? But this class system, whether you can fly, you're going to bust through walls and create new platforms. You're going to be able to create portals for you to walk through and gain rotations. You're going to be able to run around the map, completing like a mini quest almost to get yourself a super good buff or a super good item or something like that. You're going to be able to, as the support, go into lanes and say like, okay, I'm picking from multiple different extra things that I can give my laner. That I can say like, you know what? You get this shield that every 30 seconds it refreshes itself, right? You get the minions are buffed. We get to spawn minions, whatever the spell might be, right? This class system is going to be that when somebody looks at Aran, who runs up to a wall and busts a wall down in one punch, right? And the wall falls away and you can now walk through that section of the jungle or the map or whatever it may be. That's going to draw people in. They're going to see someone flying over the lanes. That's going to draw people in, right? Being able to do these things that you don't see in other MOBAs, but let alone most other games as a whole, are going to be huge drawing factors, I think, for the majority of players.
So I'll be real with you. Oh, did you want to say something? Because I was going to throw my 2 cents in there too.
So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be real. My little thing in there where I'm like, hey, this is the reason, is 100% immersion. And I know Jelly's heard me say this shit. Like, it's hard to describe. But once you're actually in there, walking around, it's like, I almost forgot this shit was a MOBA. Mm-hmm. Like, low key, it's expansive, immersive. Like, you know, the game is still in its progress. It's growing. Of course, it's going to get refined, animations, visuals, etc. But when you're actually in there, you're like, yo, this place looks dope as shit. Like, this place is cool. Like, you're walking around. I was walking up at one point. I was walking up on one of the ledges, right? Like going into the void lane, just one of those little ledges where you can walk through the side and then you're kind of above them, ready to jump down. And I was like, hey man, I'm noticing a lot of lanterns around me suddenly. What the hell are all these lights? There's like lanterns up here. Somebody's at a campfire or something. And I'm like, I like the immersion because it reminded me of those early story-based games. And I say early because it's still in development, but it really reminded me of the type of game that you play it and you're like, yo, I play this shit because it looks dope as fuck. It's immersive. And even though it might not be currently to the quality that a lot of people expect because it's an indie game that's growing, it has that potential of getting there and getting refined and getting to the point where it's like, yo, this game looks sweet with all its originality. Like a fucking dragon spawning out of nowhere, and that's your buff, and now you're fighting a dragon in an ice cave and shit. Like just little things like that, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of dope. I'm gonna be real with you. Like literally, I'm sitting here fighting. I totally forget at times that it's a MOBA. The level of the potential of immersion that they have, I don't even think the entire team fully realizes it as to how deep that shit could go.
I will give a little bit of teaser here for something. That immersion Windu is cranked up to 11 in an announcement that is coming in the next couple of weeks. That like something that you, because I know you walked around the map, right? And you talked with Skifter and I a lot about some of the things on the map. That is so like you're gonna see it, and it's going to be very interesting to see your reaction of the level of immersion in that new announcement coming in a couple weeks here.
So, because I was actually picky. Like, in case anybody watching is curious, I went through there. I was 100. Like, at first, I was overwhelmed. I was like, whoa, this is a lot. I was like, y'all want my feedback? Y'all gonna have to give me a minute. I gotta walk around. I was like, let me look at shit. Let me see what's going on.
Hours with you on a call.
Yo, yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, after I got past that initial shock of like, whoa, this is kind of big. And then you heard me. I gave feedback on everything from the choice of texture that was used. I gave everything feedback on scale. I gave feedback on the dramatic immersion of certain aspects, right? So I'm telling you, like, if I'm gonna be blown away, even better, awesome. But just based on what was there, a simple video doesn't do it justice. Quite frankly, it's
something you have to experience.
A video doesn't give you that gut-wrenching feeling of jumping from one lane down to void lane. Like it truly is. If you have vertigo, it makes your stomach flip a little bit.
Yes, bro, you will feel those butterflies for damn fucking sure. Whenever you're jumping down, like
a little scary. It's like, did I hit the jump or am I going to miss and fall into a fucking oblivion? And again, I want to say that too, because a lot of people look at that as a gimmick that the lanes are kind of off balance and up above each other. If you take damage, if you take combat damage while you're falling from one lane to another, you will take fall damage and you will fucking die.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't even know that. So if you're in the middle of a fight and you just decide, hey, I'm out, bye, like you just down to the next lane, and if you were in, oh my god, you take fall damage if you were in the middle of a fight.
Yeah,
there will be some abilities that can reset your momentum so you don't take fall damage.
Yeah, like a jump ability, for example, or stuff like that might reset your momentum upwards at the right timing. But that just involves a skill gap. Then at that point,
absolutely.
So that answers part of my question that I wanted to ask. I'm going to jump in that real quick.
Okay, real quick. Mangoose and I have talked about on Enter the Ether a lot of that the game looks more overwhelming than it is. When you get into the game, your first game, you're doing the same thing like Windu said. You're getting there like, I need a second to like look around. What is all of this? Right? But when you get into the game and you actually like experience it, right? It's a whole different thing. It's really intuitive in a lot of ways in terms of where you're going, what you need to do, and all of that kind of stuff. And we're working every day to make it more and more intuitive so that first feeling of being overwhelmed your first game is as minimized as possible. but that feeling of being impressed by how overwhelmed you are is the same.
Yeah, I was about to say, you definitely don't want to cut back on the whoa factor.
Yeah, no, not that at all. It's just that you more understand of like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. All that kind of stuff. Kind of quality of life improvements more than, but that impressive factor still exists.
What were you going to ask, Bearded? Because I got a question too, but I want to hear what you're going to say.
My one reason for being here, or for really want to be part of this game, is the flying characters or flying myths. Is there flying combat? Like if you have 2 flying characters, are they going to be able to have combat in air? And then even if you don't have 2 players, so like if I'm going against Mangoose and I'm flying, am I able to attack him while I'm in the air? Because he's able to attack me while I'm in the air. Or do I have to land to be able to, do I have to like land successfully and then go be able to attack?
So for the flying characters, that's a moment of balance. That's going to be ever shifting for a little bit here, right? In that if you have a flying character that can attack like normal while they're in the air, then what's to stop them from just flying over lanes and just poking people out from a distance if they have ranged abilities or ranged attack for that matter? But if you have flying characters that can only use their abilities on the ground, then you run into the problem of, well, then why would I fly? Right? I'm at a disadvantage going into a fight because I have to land and then start my abilities. Right? So it's finding that balance, and that's going to be a thing with all the flying characters of what does that balance look like? So with Leah, our current flying myth, she has 2 abilities that she can cast while she's flying. And those abilities will then transition her from the flying state to being on the ground. So there is no in-air combat. Once there's 2 Sky Slayers, you cannot fight each other directly in air. Part of that also ties into the flying characters will have a stamina system. So in order to keep it so that you're not just circling above a lane, right, that they can't touch you, you can't do anything.
Right.
We're implementing a stamina system that you will eventually fall. Depending on how far you fall, you may take fall damage, because if you're flying super high and you lose stamina, you're SOL, right? But at the same time, if you're flying low and you take damage while you're flying, it will deplete that stamina bar faster.
Cool.
So it's to incentivize smart flight while still being able to use abilities in flight. Like Leah's crashing dive is her ability, one of the abilities she can use while she's flying, which lets her, it's basically her gank tool. She can fly above and then crash down on a lane and knock people up.
Okay.
Right? She's using that flight to her advantage as part of her kit. So it's tied in that way. There's, like I said, there's no direct in-flight combat.
Okay.
So to confirm, at least as far as the plans go, if I'm midair, right, chasing somebody down, I decide to use my ability to just kind of hit them in the air. Now they took damage. Their stamina has now depleted by a certain amount. I'm falling, but there's a chance they're going to be falling soon also because their stamina got depleted.
Yeah. So if, let's say, as an example, right, because of the check mark, if this is fire lane up here and ice lane is my thumb, if you're flying from ice lane over to fire lane and you hit the person with an ability while you're halfway through and they run out of stamina, they will drop and immediately start falling to void lane and
into the bottom,
take fall damage and die.
Dante
That's awesome.
does have a Murdock-like snipe.
I was gonna say that cross map snipe, bro. Can you imagine just literally sitting there hitting a minion and be like, oh hell no, bitch. Not on my watch. Ruined your rotation.
Right now, as far as the flying heroes, Leah is the one that they have right now.
Mm-hmm.
There was an interview with Steve Superbill a long time ago talking about why Paragon should be great and why it was named the Paragon, which is like the epitome of something, is every hero should feel like a superhero in certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
And Leah feels like if you took Chimera, put wings on that motherfucker, and then gave him Crunch's passive. Leah feels fucking amazing in certain situations. Mm-hmm. But again, just like Chimera, like if you go on this fucking tear, but all of a sudden you get CC'd, all of a sudden Marina puts a fucking shield on your target and you can't kill him, and the tower's targeting you, you're fucking dead. Like she's not overpowered, but she's very powerful in the right situation. If you catch somebody off guard in their jungle with Leah, then you can shit all over them. But if you catch like Malaya off guard in the jungle, you might get shit on because she's got the life steal, she's got the
little claws.
Yeah, them ain't little claws, them big claws. Them some big claws.
That's my woman Wolverine right there.
Yeah,
100%.
There you go.
So it's important to remember too, because we did bring up the conversation of the mocap suit and wings, etc. It might be tasking, but I think that even sticking with flying characters with wings is very narrow-sided. I'm actually on the popular belief that most of these flying characters aren't even going to have wings. How many mages do you see float around with arcane energy? You feel me? Human Torch flies around shooting fucking fire. Iron Man Repulsor, like literally just like a beam of energy out of a robot suit. There are a lot of Thor throws a hammer. Think of that, right? And he just holds on to it as he flies through. But
I've hypothesized that there's a wolf that spins his tail around that flies around like a helicopter.
Bro, that's called Tails. That's called Tails.
We
yes.
No. It's original idea. Okay? Original idea.
I just pointed out that
What
when
is making
Windu
a
said
wolf?
that, Jelly made a face. And Jelly knows shit.
Right? We're just gonna say he's tired. Everybody saw it. But now, so that's actually a question in the chat. The delicate subject of AI practice modes, training modes, because in an upcoming MOBA, and a new MOBA in general, right? There's that overwhelming feeling of, well, I don't want to go in there and get shit on, right? So, like, what are the plans on? What are the plans on that area? Like, are you guys planning on having stuff like that down the road? Is it more of a priority, or is it one of those things that for sure will be there before release? You know, just kind of loading the question up there for you. My bad.
Yeah, no worries. Real quick, I do want to address your thing about the Sky Slayers and flight as a word, right? Yes, wings are a very obvious way to do flight. What I will say is that the definition on our website of what the Sky Slayers will do is their ability is that the ability grants them the gift of flight, allowing them to take to the skies and pass over large areas quickly. It does not say they use their wings to fly.
So there's going to be a witch with a broom in the game, is what you're saying.
That's where I'm going to leave.
Let's go. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Bring in the broom, bring in the pointy nose and everything. I want the Baba Yaga of Ethereal running through this bitch. She literally climbs in her house and like whatever, bro.
The old man from Up with his balloon house.
Oh, get him in, bro. Get him in.
Shoot the balloons down to get his stamina to go lower.
Pixar, hit us up. We'll make a collab. I promise.
Oh fuck! Just don't make Noxus fly. Holy shit! She's the one that I equivocate with a witch, and her flying is terrifying. I hope that never happens. Noxus is powerful as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So with the map the way it is and that check mark layout that we have, is it possible to fall off the lane and fall off the map per se? You know, or if you try to go to the next lane and your stamina falls out, you fall between that gap, so that counts as a death. Now, does that death count in towards the enemy team, or is that like I died to tower, so you get no benefit out of that?
So it'll depend on the combat state you were in prior. It'll be like other MOBAs, right? Where if you get attacked by an enemy myth, you are put into a combat state for a certain amount of time. Right. If for whatever reason you die during that amount of time, that myth gets the credit.
Gotcha.
Right. But if you were fighting a tower, if you got hit by a tower, if you died to minions, died to jungle camps, or fell
without hero interaction.
Yeah, without the myth interaction, it will just be a death that you take. Your punishment is the respawn timer. Nobody is benefiting from that death necessarily.
But if you snipe them out of the air and they just happen to die, be like, got them, bro.
I mean,
or I'll be real with you, they could be flying across the air low HP too. That doesn't mean they're full HP. You get me? Right. You easily could kill them midair and be like, that's for the clips.
We have a myth that can grab people and throw them, right? If you engage him at the edge of a lane, I wouldn't blame him at all for grabbing you and just tossing you straight off the edge. Peace out. Best of luck to you. Right?
Oh,
that it's
fuck.
Raw.
It's all over, dude.
Yes, 100%.
So it's finding that you have to know who you're against, what the interaction is, all that kind of stuff, right? But there's plenty of opportunity like that in the game. To go back to the question that you asked, Windu, about AI and what that looks like in priority and all of that good stuff. For us, AI, we know how important that is to new player onboarding, right? When I first played Paragon, and even honestly through the end of Paragon, despite playing the PvP most often, I would hop into customs all the time. On a new character I've never played, hop into a custom. Playing the game for the first time, hop into a custom. Like, do these things that help you lower that barrier of entry to the game in terms of a PvP standpoint. So as of our pre-alpha release, we will not have any AI modes available. It is something that we are definitely going to prioritize once we can get the game out in people's hands and have more of a stable game environment for them. That moves up in the priority list in terms of getting it out as soon as possible.
How about speaking of barrier entry? How about like a pre-built recommended item list, maybe out of the whole list, or an auto buy system that maybe a new player that might not know how to navigate the shop, it'll just start buying stuff automatically. Tutorials, maybe anything like that.
So for tutorials themselves, we are definitely planning on having that I'm going to go through and basically create an entire set of videos for people to look at and watch and have at least a base understanding going into the game. So we'll have videos for all the classes, how to use their ability. We'll have the item shop. We'll have the myth select. We'll have all of those things to help lower that barrier of entry so you have an understanding going in. These will not be mandatory watches. I know like Fault, when you first load up, makes you sit through that long video to watch all the kind of tutorial aspect. They're not going to be mandatory, but we will recommend them to people of, hey, before you go into game, if you want to learn more.
Yeah, like a little learn tab or something like a lot of games commonly do.
So that for the tutorial aspect, that'll be the big thing on that pre-alpha release is having those videos. In terms of an auto buy system, it's something that we've looked at. It is not in the game currently, but it is definitely something we've looked at implementing for those new players. But we have recommended items that we have the people in our testing environment that play those myths the most regularly. We went to them and said, hey, what items would you recommend to a new player picking up this myth, right? And use those and laid them out in a like, okay, starting items, then first back, what you're recommended if you want to go offense, defense, etc. Another thing that I was working on originally, but now is getting roped in under Undying Games, is that I created a builder site that people can go out and create dedicated builds with that they can describe how it works, how they play it, what to upgrade first, all those good stats that we're going to have. We have our team, my team that was originally working on it is now working on developing it in with the rest of the Undying Games team, so we can make that as cohesive as possible to the community going forward.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, and it's also very important to mention little things like that, like a website that has like a deck builder that you could try out different stats, different builds, etc. Even if it's not housed in the game, as long as the link is in the game and be like, yo, try out the deck builder, click on this button. As soon as you click the button, web browser pops up. Very easily to do that, or it could be integrated into the game at a future date also. That would just take a little bit more time, right? But I'll be honest, whenever I play this game, right, one of the things that I thought about the most was just the fact that I'm excited as to where it could go, right? Now, that, of course, gets directly tied to longevity. Now, before you answer, Jelly, so I can give the amazing other cast here opportunities to say their piece, right? What are your concerns and or advice when it comes to longevity as far as Ethereal? What do you got? What would you say to Ethereal based off of what you've seen with other projects and your experience as such?
It really goes down to going back to watching the last episode, Into the Ether, and it's that balance that Jelly talks about, the balance of transparency. You know, how much you need to be transparent, how much you need to hold to your chest. Just if you're able to keep that balance and still able to put out a healthy amount of content, that'll get your longevity will grow. I don't know. Yeah, it'll just it'll happen. Right.
Senor Goose.
As far as longevity for Ethereal, they really, and they're already focusing on this, is pulling in a player base from more than just the para zombies or the para refugees. And it's something that they've done a really good job of so far, far more than the other para zombies. I say other para zombies, but Ethereal is not a para zombie. They do a really great job of appealing to a far wider player base than the games that I normally track. Like I track Project Stamina, which pulls from the gigantic player base. I track Predecessor, Overprime, and Fault, who pulls from the para refugees. Ethereal pulls from Smite, it pulls from League of Legends, it pulls from Dota, it pulls from apparently Heroes of the Storm, which I didn't think of. And of course, it also pulls from the para refugees. And that's the way forward, is to build a large enough player base that you can get match made against people of equal skill level and experience the game the way it's intended to be experienced. And then the other thing I would say is what I was talking about earlier is every myth in Ethereal feels like a superhero in certain situations. And that's great. If you can leverage those situations in your favor, pull people out of their strong suit and pull them into your strong suit, then that's great. And I've said this before, but things that I visualized while tracking Ethereal, like I'm going to, when I see the kits, I'm going to try and do this. You can do that in Ethereal, and it's amazing. Like when I saw Noxus's passive, Noxus is the mage for Ethereal. Her passive is kind of like Greystone's passive, where he his ultimate where he resurrects, but she radiates damage whenever, instead of dying, based on the amount of damage that she's already done, and then just comes back to life. Like I took that and I was thinking that would be amazing to just press somebody that's about to kill me, but they're still low energy,
dive them
and then delete them. I've done that. I did that with Noxus.
You did that to me, no less.
I did that to Jelly. or Malaya, like her ultimate prevents her from dying. I've done that. I've gone in at extremely low health, knowing that the enemy was going to kill me, activated that ultimate at the exact right time so that they didn't kill me, and instead I gained a shitload of lifesteal and finished them off. That's the main draw of Ethereal. That's what I think Steve Superville envisioned for Paragon, is what Ethereal is doing right now. They're making everybody a superhero in the right situation. Mm-hmm. So if you can leverage those situations correctly, then great. If you're not good at leveraging those situations, then you're going to get shit on. Mm-hmm. But that's just player skill and experience with the game.
All right.
And I get shit on for the most part.
But the point that you hit on, Mangoose, I have actually figures ready to talk about that, of the wide player base that Ethereal pulls from, right? Sure, the majority of people that are following Ethereal are Paragon refugees, right? In the polls that we've been running and engaging the community and all of that, 60% of our people are from Paragon or Paragon refugees, or however you want to phrase that, right? But that means 40% of our audience is from everything else,
which is huge.
Like we've got almost 20.
That's a big number
just from League of Legends. League of Legends is a top-down MOBA, and they're coming to a third-person perspective MOBA, right? Where we're pulling people from completely different MOBA genres, no less. We're not even just relying on Smite. We're not just relying on Paladins. We're not just relying on these other third-person perspectives as well.
Paladins is first person now, sad.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh man. Now, I actually. So, I also wanted to ask and talk about not only a couple things that are mentioned here in chat, like Jeez is also mentioning in chat. Do you guys plan on having a matchmaking system for around when the alpha comes? And my follow-up question is, will that be able to be streamed? Or is it going to be like a closed behind the doors, like no public play for now?
When you
Hold
say
on. Matchmaking, I have to ask this because I'll admit my ignorance when it comes to gaming, right? I game. I've always gamed. Right? I've usually been sports games, whatever. But like, is there a game that doesn't have matchmaking system? Like, don't all of them have a matchmaking system? Like, even Call of Duty has a SBMM. You know, like, I don't know, like, I think it would be ignorant not to have a matchmaking system. Like,
that was my question as well, is do you mean matchmaking in terms of, can I find a game? Am I by myself pressing
great clarification
other people? Or do you mean a skill-based matchmaking, which is very different?
Which, I'll be honest, I think I would like to hear the answer to both, because it's very understanding for an indie company to only accept custom matches sometimes. And we've seen that done before with some projects, right? So will there be an actual server-based matchmaking, and will it involve any skill-based matchmaking?
So absolutely, there's going to be server-based matchmaking. That is actually already functional. We've been testing that out for the last couple months. So that already functional. You can find a game, 12 people, hit accept.
Break that down for me. I'm sorry. What is server-based matchmaking? Like, I literally feel like that's a game. Like, I feel like
just to find a game. That's what it is. Just find a game. Hit search. It pairs you up with people.
So look for 11 other people.
So take that out of the game, and what would I be doing?
You'd have to have 11 friends.
11 friends with a special code, and you all join the same server.
So the custom. Okay.
Essentially.
Gotcha.
Overprime.
All right.
Yeah,
or like overprime. Yeah.
So, no, gotcha. All right. So that's all right. That's fine. I was really confused. I'm like, that's every game I've ever.
So yes, we will be a game in bearded standards.
Yes.
But as for skill-based matchmaking, that's an undertaking, right? And I'll tell you, I am not going to give you answers that are definitive in one way or the other in terms of skill-based matchmaking, because skill-based matchmaking, disclosing it always becomes an issue, or very often becomes an issue. I think we've seen that with other games, that the second you start referencing and at least letting other players see what their skill level is and their skill-based matchmaking, it can very quickly devolve into problems.
Yeah.
Call of Duty for the longest didn't have skill-based matchmaking for your normal matches, only for ranked, right? So there is that possibility there, and they didn't even introduce that after the fact. There's also the subject as to skill-based matchmaking. As you mentioned, seeing where you are could easily alienate a new player as well.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I'm still playing Fault.
Yeah, I mean, Mangoose is still playing too, though, Bearded, so you're fine. But so for skill-based matchmaking, like I said, I'm not going to give definitive answers one way or the other. What I will say is there will be a eventual future that skill-based matchmaking will exist, whether that be in normals, whether that be in rank system, whether that be whatever it is, right? It is a natural progression to eventually have that some type of skill-based matchmaking. But I would tell you that from the beginning of like the pre-alpha, it's unlikely that a skill-based matchmaking would exist.
That makes sense. Like it's it's more than likely for the future, but how it gets implemented is the real question.
I mean, like with Predecessor, I don't think they have a skill-based matchmaking right now when we're doing the alphas or the server tests, and that's fine.
Correct.
Because we're in there just like really just trying to understand what's new in the game, right? You're not in there like really trying to be competitive. But with Fault, like I'm literally trying to enjoy a game and also be competitive at the same time. Right. Well, yeah, Windu's he doesn't turn that switch off. He's always competitive, sweats all the time. That's why he wears black shirts. You can't see the sweat marks.
Yo, get me out.
We need the clips in the chat.
I need another beer.
TikToks, get it everywhere. You heard it here first.
So But I mean, like I enjoy, and I think it is working. It's harder to people understand that, but like with Fault and their matchmaking system, it does work. Like if you literally go back and you play, like go to playfault.com and you go to the website, you're able to really see who you're playing up against. And majority of the time, and I mean like 90% of the time, I'm playing somebody in my skill level. Right, or at least my elo level, right? Because I'm bad, I know, but I'm also not as bad as my elo says I am, right? But I'm there, right? It literally 90% of the time it works. Like there's times like, oh shit, how the fuck did I get matched up against that person? Like no wonder I lost. It happens, but it's not as bad as people try to make it out to be. But I think it needs to be there because when I do play those matches against the people that I shouldn't be matched up against, that's not fun at all.
Yeah,
so if you don't put that matchmaking in the system in the game, then it's going to be that's how you are going to alienate people as well.
Absolutely. That's
a good point.
Like with everything, right? I've broken record on this. There's a balance to be found there. It's finding that leeway where it's not detrimental to your community to have the skill-based matchmaking, but it's also not detrimental to your community to not have skill-based matchmaking. And finding out where that line falls in terms of development, but in terms of implementation as well. What I would say is we're very unlikely to have a way for you to check what your skill-based matchmaking level is, your MMR. We're unlikely to have a way for you to check that until a ranked system comes out. Because that will be a definitive, this is my rank, and skill level relatively coincides in a range there, right?
Yeah,
because
that makes sense.
I think we've seen with other games that can very quickly create toxicity.
Oh yeah.
Because you go in saying, I'm a 1400 MMR. Why am I grouped with 700 MMRs? Yeah. Get me out of here. I don't want to play this. Or being against the person with 1400 feels even bad as well, right? So it just kind of creates that bad environment, or can create that bad environment.
Yeah. I want to slip in here real quick with a complete 180 turn of what we're talking about, but I just wanted to get this into this video before we can go any further. Ethereals Lore. Now, a lot of people don't care about lore, but goddamn, Ethereal has put in like Dungeons and Dragons level world building into their game, and the lore for each hero is absolutely amazing. They've got, just like with their music, they do different music to suit the different myth. They have different lore to suit different myth, and different people working on that lore to suit different myth. The people that are good at this kind of lore are working on this myth. The people that are good at this kind of lore are working on this myth. The lore for this game is absolutely amazing. And I think it's going to be one of the definitive things that separates Ethereal from a lot of other games is just the depth of the storytelling within the game. And I know that doesn't matter to a lot of people, but it matters some. It matters some to everybody. Lore matters a little bit to everybody. Otherwise, you would have Tank 1, Tank 2, Tank 3. You wouldn't have Steel. You wouldn't have Severog. You wouldn't have Richter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just
I feel
that. About abilities. They have a name, they have a personality, and they have a backstory. In Ethereal, they have fucking massive backstory, which is really great.
And that's even for people that don't care about lore. Like I years ago would have said that I wasn't a lore person in any way, shape, or form. But when I am playing League of Legends and my favorite character, right, and I've played hundreds of games on this character, I might go check out their lore. I might want to know more about this person that I've been playing hundreds of games in. So even if I don't care about the world lore or other character lore, my character I care about. I want to know more about why my character is the way that they are. Right. And I think that goes a long way as well.
Dude, I am not that way.
Before Paragon, I wasn't a lore person, but then reading into Paragon's lore, I read one, and then I said that I read the next one, and then I read that, and I was like, and then I fell down that rabbit hole, and I enjoyed all of it. I'm like, okay, this is really cool. But I think that's the one benefit that Ethereal has, not being a para-zombie or a para-refugee, is because they aren't being pigeonholed, to a lore that was already created, and you can't, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, and I'm sorry if I am, but I don't believe you're able to use the lore that Epic made for Paragon. So you kind of have to recreate your own lore, but you have these these para-zombie fans that are here, that are there for their character, and now you got to change up their lore. So like you're literally handcuffed to like, what do I do here? You know,
a lot of freedom.
That's why we haven't really seen any lore from the para-zombies, but so that's what kind of the great thing for Ethereal. You have that freedom to just kind of like, bam, look what we have, and look what we're able to do. So it's great, and you guys should definitely capitalize on that and keep pushing.
Dude, I'll be real. I was just gonna say I'm one of those that I do not give a damn about lore ever, but I like how the lore influences the character, like the voice lines. I love, mind blown. One of my favorite parts about Ethereal are all the immense, very detailed voice lines, how they might interact with each other and such. Dope as shit, right? I don't care where they came from, but the fact that they are that detailed, and the fact that, like, for example, when I'm in the middle of a match, I can do my own little bit of trolling just by simply, you know, kind of throwing my own little unique lines in there and be like, oh yeah, I know this is going to trigger him. That's a great job. Be like, got him. So like, I enjoy how the lore affects the skins. I enjoy how they affect the voice lines. I enjoy how it genuinely affects the world. I'm just of that majority that, yeah, I'm going to be real with you. I'm not going to read it, but I like it.
Which is fine. Yeah, no, it's okay to have that balance of both, right? The people that don't care about the lore, the people that love the lore, the people in the middle, right? All of that, like it all helps in its own way, or there's something else that like people that don't like lore may draw into, whether it be a skin or something like that, right? There's always potential for that going forward as well. For something Mangoose mentioned that was a big draw for him that he and I have talked about before is the feeling of like, if you're imagining a character, right, and you like know their kit, and you're like, okay, for instance, Dante's laser that he can shoot cross map,
like battle creativity.
Yeah, but it's thinking about how like, oh, like, yeah, I could jump off a lane and snipe somebody, or I can go to the edge of a lane and snipe somebody down a different one above me, whatever it may be, snipe a Sky Slayer out of the sky, causing them to lose stamina, fall and hit the ground and die, right? Like those things were big for me when I was directing the cinematic, right? The third part of the cinematic where you're actually seeing in-game footage of things happening on the map. That was a big thing for me, of like being able to spot someone across the map, laser beam them, being able to jump off the lanes, being able to go fight the fire wyvern, going and doing these things, feeling that those aspects, that those are actually things you can do in the game is a big thing.
Sure. And kudos to you again, because that's what needs to be highlighted. It's those little things that you can easily take for granted, but whenever you actually see them implemented, or when you can see yourself doing stuff like that, that's when it takes it to the next level. Like, I'll be real with you, I don't know why I didn't even think about standing on the ledge and shooting down at the bottom lane. I don't know why. That never crossed to me. I was like, shoot him in the sky. Easy. I was already thinking about that. But now to troll and be like, grab a camp. Anybody low down there? Anything I can see? Yeah! Be like, hey, man, he's in that camp. Go get him. I got you. Say less.
And similar to Murdock's laser, it goes through terrain. So if you're on the bottom of Void Lane,
I just stopped talking. I literally was just going to ask, but I mean, all right, hey.
If you're on the bottom of Void Lane, right, and you're underneath the ice lane, you can fire it straight up through the lane and try and hit somebody that way, right? So there's so many potential avenues for abilities with that in mind, of the checkmark lane structure and all of those good things.
Or you can hit somebody in their spawn.
Right. Ooh, there you go. Now I have to ask. It's a six-person team or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is this how is it going to work? Is like, because I know like with the MOBA, right? You got your two in duo lane, you got your one in mid, your one in solo, and then your jungler, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a jungle? I see 3 lanes, but I mean, like, what pertains to jungle? Because you fall off the map if you go off the lane. So like, Chimera doesn't fly very well. So what do we got going on here?
So that there's a certain amount of that we're leaving up to the community when they play the game, right? Of what they decide the meta is, whether if it really comes down to being 2 duo lanes of solo and a single jungler, it could be that way. We don't anticipate it going that way. We think there's going to be 2 junglers in the game.
Okay.
You'll have duo lane, solo lane in void, solo lane on one of the side lanes, and then you'll have 2 jungles roaming the map. There's also 2 schools of thought with that in mind. Because you have characters that can fly, right? And you have 2 lanes that are floating above, you could have that jungler take care of those 2 lanes, fly back and forth, and then the less mobile one stay on void lane and run around that way. Or we've seen that you split void down the middle, and you have, because there are portals to access the other lanes, even if you can't fly, you split void lane down the middle and you each take a half of the map and split it up that way. In Ethereal, there are 38 jungle camps. So when you keep that in mind with 1 jungler on each team, that's 19 camps each. That's a lot, right? So being able to take those efficiently while also ganking is going to be very difficult. So that's why we think the double jungle is more likely to be the case. But there is definitely an element of leaving it up to the community of what they decide is best.
So I'm to my understanding, I think the answer is going to be leaving up to the community. But are we, with all the testing that's been happening, are we looking at maybe a possible paragon and the inverse? Like a duo lane, being, like if I'm on duo lane, I'm going against a solo laner, and then vice versa? Or is it going to be like Fault is now, duo lane versus duo lane, solo lane versus solo lane?
The answer is yes to both. We've seen the majority of testing is dual lane to dual lane, right? That we've seen that the vast majority of games, 99% of them, are that duo to dual lane. However, there have been the occasional game, the Marina gameplay video, for instance. I was playing Marina. We decided to actually switch it up and go to make a different lane, the duo lane. Right? We talked to our off laner. He said he was comfortable going into the duo. Now we are not balancing them so that he's going to win that the majority of the time, but he was comfortable playing safe in that duo lane where he could just kind of sit back, farm under tower, be casual, and let us press up against the other person that we're switching against. So there is the potential to switch it up some, but that'll come down to your team composition, what your team is comfortable doing. If you have an offlaner that can play that extremely safe route, right? There are lots of options there for it. But the majority of the time, you're going to see that duo to duo lane matchup.
So I know you said there's portals to go from lanes, right? So we got the ice lane, the void lane, and the fire lane. Is fire lane the high one, right?
Fire lane is the highest, yes.
Well, heat rises, makes sense. So is there
giant floating rocks, thermodynamics? I don't know.
I mean, so why isn't ice on the bottom then?
Exactly.
Because void is colder than ice. God.
Right.
And void breaks laws of physics, so it's fine.
Come on now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
So is there a portal to go from fire to ice? Like
from fire to ice?
Yeah. Or do you have to go?
Okay. This is a first.
There is not currently a portal from fire to ice.
It went from no comment to I'm gonna let you know.
I was about to say, I'll at least let you know what's going on right now. All right. You're like, okay.
Not currently a portal from fire to ice.
So the portals from
you
fire
heard
to
here,
ice,
chat. Currently.
If there was one, what does the obelisk do?
Oh, the obelisk, man. If only they would tell me, because I still don't know.
You still don't know for real?
I don't. They won't tell me what the obelisk does.
What is the obelisk?
What is the obelisk? Yeah.
There is an objective on the map called the obelisk that is currently inactive from the community's perspective and in testing and all of that. But it is unknown to the community what the obelisk does.
Also, like a major buff, a major team objective that's still being worked on.
Correct.
Okay.
Something. We don't know what the fuck it is. It could be like a movement thing.
Just so other people understand, because the majority of our communities are para-zombies, that something more like an orb prime potentially, a big
we have an equivalent to orb prime already. That's Atropos.
Okay.
And Atropos, actually, for those of you that are new to the game, Atropos, when he's fully implemented, will be a 3-stage boss.
Like scaling.
So when the game starts, you will be at a smaller version of Atropos. He will be standing on his legs. He's got a sword, and he'll be in his cave hanging out. When you kill that version of Atropos, he will then evolve into a stronger, bigger, faster form that does more damage. When you kill that second tier, he evolves again into a third tier, which is the biggest form, that he's got wings. He loses his legs. He evolves into a very large beast. You can see him in some of the gameplays. That's his current final form, is what's in the gameplays on that buff right now.
Okay. So level 1 Atropos, right? Atropos, right?
Atropos, yeah.
Atropos. All right. A level 1 Atropos. If we kill him at 8 minutes, he now becomes, when he respawns, he's now level 2.
Correct.
But if we don't kill him at 8 minutes and we wait till 20 minutes, he's still just level 1 Atropos? Or is there a certain time that he's going to evolve into level 2 no matter what?
Because
Great question.
it's not implemented yet. We haven't made an official decision one way or the other on that.
Okay.
But so that's something we have to look at. But it could be either way. That it could be at set times, at 15 minutes, at 25 minutes, he automatically evolves to the next tier.
Right.
Or you have to kill the first one, because if you didn't prioritize that objective, why should you get the better buff at the end if you didn't do the thing for it? So there's definitely many schools of thought in that regard.
Ooh. Now, Windu, that makes me think, imagine fault, and because like some people don't even touch Lesser Helix.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't touch Lesser Helix, you don't get Orb Prime in that regards. You don't get the benefit of Orb Prime.
That'd be the equivalency that you could make, yeah.
It's a nice integration to prioritize the objective because you want the better one later on. It's like, hey, we have to dedicate time to it. Now, to sneak in a question from chat here, chat's actually asking, what about server location? Are you planning on just like starting with NAEU? Are there going to be multiple server options?
The current plan is NAEU will be the primary servers that we focus on first. Then from there, it's expanding where there's an audience, right? That if we need Asia servers, right? We can open an Asian server. We can do that. We can figure out where the audience is, and we want to come to as many people as possible. So like I said, focus primarily the two biggest regions in the majority of cases being NA and EU, and then specialize from there as needed.
Okay. Keeping on the server talk, are you guys looking at doing like a lot of games now are dealing with the AWS, the Amazon something server? I don't care what the W was, but are you guys looking at doing something like that, or you guys have something else server wise that you guys are looking at for doing?
Yeah. Currently, we actually do use AWS. So that is our current server provider.
Okay.
I just want to say real quick, going back to the Atropos thing,
Lore?
He's not the only objective. You got the two wyverns. You got Ice Wyvern and Fire Wyvern.
Yep.
Or I'm sorry, Ice Wyvern and Fire Wyvern.
Yeah, come on.
Which are dragons, in case y'all don't know. Those are massive dragons that you kill them and it gives you a buff.
Mm-hmm. Fire Wyvern on the Iceland, right?
Yeah, that's exactly
how they balance out the thermodynamics. Right? You put the Fire Wyvern on Iceland.
That's how it is, bro. Keep them cool. Keep them cool. Now, interesting question in the chat, actually. Chat is asking, is there some sort of day cycle because of the expansion of the game? Anything like time of day? Like weather-wise or anything related to like actual ambient, like lighting might change as the game goes throughout, little things like that might add to immersion.
Yeah, well, it can't rain in Fire Lane because that would no longer be Fire Lane.
Just Steamy Lane. There you go.
Steamy Lane.
Yes. So
sounds like my
both
bedroom.
Of those things are planned features for Ethereal. They will not be in the pre-alpha. It is definitely one of those further features down the line. Gameplay is the most important thing going into the pre-alpha, of course. But we will have a weather system. We'll have 4 times of day, being day, dusk, night, and dawn, right? That it'll rotate on a set time loop through those phases. You will also have weather events that happen. Now, those will be more random events that will alter how far everyone can see. Maybe it's a clear day, maybe it's a foggy day, raining, snowing, all those good things. So we're going to have a bunch of those adaptable areas that you'll have to learn and get accustomed to as the game goes on.
Now, with all those changing aspects, right? Because it's kind of a cool thing to incorporate shadows whenever you have all these different layers, right? Mm-hmm. So I can imagine that lighting is going to be huge in this game. Like if you decide to be that person that cranks lighting all the way up to the highest setting, now you're just sitting down there and be like, well, it's kind of dark as shit. I'm in a shadow right now. The sun's kind of in the wrong spot. I'm gonna be real with you. Or like, has a lot of thought been put into that area? Like, are you planning to make that like a main focus of the whole immersiveness, the whole lighting aspect? Because there's a huge potential there.
Yeah, like you said before, with when you were on the map the first time and you saw a bunch of the lanterns and the torches that are around, right? Even when it's dark, there's going to be sources of light. So that will help part of it, but it's going to be leaning into that immersive aspect. The majority of that is immersion based in that, like, as you have a giant light box roaming right through the sky, the shadows will adjust. That you'll be able to actively see the time of day changing based on shadow lengths on certain rocks or certain positions or whatever it may be.
And there are items that are more powerful depending on the time of day.
Yep, that as well.
Any myths right now that are more powerful depending on the time of day, but there are items.
That would actually be cool. You imagine a werewolf myth that gets stronger at night because the full moon is out.
Tail.
Get me out, bro.
And he's ranged and throws great swords as his ranged attack.
Yeah, we've thought of this.
Yeah, Mangoose are on it. Mangoose and I are on it.
So,
okay?
Sorry, I'm late.
So with the items that are time of day based, so is that something like, okay, well, it's no longer dusk, let me go sell this item because it's not really as beneficial for me anymore? Is that going to be something into the game? Is that how you guys are testing it now? Or?
So right now, because time of day isn't implemented, those items haven't been implemented as well, because that's an impossible thing to test when you can't test the
environment.
You're right. I forgot about that. You're right.
No, it's fine. But so those items, that's going to be a balancing thing of how do we implement that without making people feel like, oh, it's about to be nighttime, let me go back to base, stock up on these night items that make me better. And then the second dawn starts happening, you go back to base and sell them all and rebuy your normal items. It's finding out how do you make the items beneficial enough to hang on to during the day. That I think is going to be the hardest part and the challenge of time of day based items or weather based or whatever it may be. And that applies to myths as well.
Yeah. I think a great effect would be having an item, having flat based items that no matter what time of day it is, this is what you get, right? And then from there, having items that it'd probably be a nightmare to figure out coding wise, but imagine an item that depending on how much sunlight your character is directly getting would actually affect the stats. And there's a daylight side and a night side. You feel me? Imagine a damage item. Nighttime, you get more pen. Daytime, you get more power. So you're still getting a benefit out of it, but depending on where it's shifting, maybe it's in one of those in-between phases, you might actually get a little bit best of both worlds, but you just got to be conscientious about what you're building and how it's affecting you, but not necessarily hindering you.
I think you hit on the exciting thing about Ethereal is that stuff like that is possible. Stuff like that has been thought of. Stuff like that has been implemented. Stuff that you were like, I think this would be cool to have in a MOBA. That's what Ethereal is going for.
So all I'm imagining now with what Windu just said is I'm literally imagining that when you buy this item, you now just have solar panels on your skin. And like, as soon as those solar panels get light, I now have more power. Like my lights are on. I'm good.
Give me
lower taxes,
bro. Give me a Tesla carry.
Gold.
No, give me a Tesla sponsored carry that gets more attack speed in the light. Get me in.
Every item you buy, you get a 5 gold return.
Yes, bro.
Count on items.
Yes. Give me a solar powered carry. I am in. I will shoot beams of light I have stored in my battery. Get me in. Now, somebody's actually asking in the chat.
Nighttime comes in, you got to go charge.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or just generally weaker.
Regular plugs. You gotta.
So chat's actually asking, and great question, and I'm assuming this answer is going to be a yes, just because of that mindset of if you thought about it, it's probably being considered and probably going to be added. One of those things like, so if it's windy, does that mean flying characters are going to have a little bit of difficulty? Like crosswind, so to speak? Like flying against the wind, wasting more stamina?
It's something we've talked about potentially having. I think it'll come down to, with that in particular, it'll come down to a feel, right? If it's windy and I'm flying, does it feel terrible? If so, probably not, right? But if
that balance again,
if there's a way to do it that feels good, right? If you can get the wind coming from behind you and you get a speed boost, for instance, maybe that balances it out. And so then your rotations are involved of, okay, I've got the wind going to the east. I need to make sure and fly from fire to ice lane, right? I need to be able to make those decisions as well. So it's a balance thing. It's determining what feels good to play. And that's
going to be a windsock in the HUD, so I know which way the wind is blowing. Like,
which we would have to if that was the case. Yeah.
No, bro. Hold on. You could literally just look up, and when you see the squiggles going in a specific direction, like every other game, you'd be like, oh, okay, it's going that way. All right, I'm gonna go that way. Like, you feel me? It doesn't have to be that complex. It's not like you need a fucking like like a fucking rooster spinning around in your map. Be like, oh yeah, air's going north. Yeah, for sure. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
When you find Windu staring up at the sky looking for the squiggles,
100%.
Wasting time,
bro. 100%. You're literally gonna see me flick up and be like, all right, bet I know where I'm at. I know what's going on.
The guy who's flaming HUD, like, oh no, there's a waste of space, or we needed more space. You need to take up more space here.
No, but that's exactly
windsock there, but
no, but that's exactly why. But that's exactly why those swirls in the air would be a particle effect in that situation. That's not something that's taking up as part of my screen on a 24/7 basis. That's something that if I'm concerned as a flyer, I look up into the sky and I can see the wind waves, right? But if I'm a laner that has no vertical mobility like that, I don't care. If I'm focused on my lane, I won't see it.
No, you do care because if the wind is blowing a certain direction, if the wind is blowing towards ice lane, then
that means you're in a danger zone.
Watch out. Yeah, you need to watch out.
That's a good point. Well, and I love intricacy like that. That's just dope to think about.
Have we talked about the amount of abilities that are in Ethereal? Because it's more than a regular MOBA.
That's a great subject.
About that yet?
Before we go, let's continue the wind real quick, and then we'll go to abilities right next. Right? I think the issue again, it comes more to balance, and that's what a MOBA really is. Like, people don't understand that. Like, MOBAs are they're ever flowing, right? And it's all balancing. It's like, hey, this is the meta now. We got to make changes. We got to balance it out. We got to do this. All about balancing. So it's great that we're having this talk. But like the wind thing and affecting a flyer, I can understand it, but I'm just assuming that there's going to eventually be a myth that's going to be shooting arrows, right? Arrows don't do so well in the wind, right? So am I literally, okay, I see the wind swirls, but I don't know how strong the wind is. Let me aim this way and hope it goes that way.
Your bullet drop also accounts for directional.
Yeah, exactly. I got to figure that. Like, that just seems like that's where that balancing comes in. You really makes that hard. And I don't know if you could really have that be too much of an effect when it comes to that.
Yeah, and it's something I mentioned, like the feel, right? In terms of a balanceable, something being balanceable, it also comes down to feel. Something can be balanced but feel terrible. That's not good, right? Because you never want your players going like, this feels awful, right? For any reason, whether it's good, bad, otherwise, right? So it's a little bit of both, of finding the balanceable option, but whether or not it feels good as well, and it feels intuitive. Right. If it feels intuitive for you to fly faster with headwind versus right or whatever it may be, then that's what's going to come down to it in addition to that.
And I will say the one archer that is in Ethereal is malware, and it doesn't seem like his arrows would be affected by physics at all.
Hold up. His name's malware?
His name is malware.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that not like an anti?
Yes, he is a sentient computer virus that has infected a biological host and is attempting to infect all other biological hosts.
Interesting. Okay,
it's dope. It's dope. For sure.
I had to look more into this person or this myth. All right, I was like, wait, what?
So malware is badass.
So hey guys, in the drafting stage, they picked malware. All right, who's picking McAfee?
I got Norton. Don't worry.
No, but
I got the Norton.
Who's
All
playing
right,
Windows Defender?
Brings
No,
no,
but-
NordVPN. Who's got malware?
no. So hold on. So just think about those possibilities as in the game, right? Think about the fact that if they choose a carry that is not affected by the elements, but you choose a carry that is, and you happen to know we're starting at dawn, right? Like, this is the cycle that it's starting at. I know I have an advantage for the first 2 minutes of the game. You get me? So I might be able to choose a dawn side character, or I might be like, you know what? Maybe I'll pick a nighttime character. I might not be strong early. He might be better than me early. But as soon as that nighttime comes around, bro, I'll be able to clap. I just got to make it count. You get me? The implications of that outplay potential are dope as shit. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And it adds variation to the games, right? MOBAs are inherently the same thing every time. Push down a lane, eventually kill whatever the final thing is. Titan, Nexus, all those things, right? The core, the elders in Ethereal's case, right? They all boil down to those same concepts. The variations are what's different from game to game. The different characters, the different times of day, the different weather effects that you encountered, the different routes you took in the jungle, like all of these things change. And that's what creates the variety and that feeling of newness in these MOBAs.
Now,
So
go ahead.
you guys talked earlier about about certain environment changes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Is that environment change going to affect the whole map, or is that going to be lane specific, or like, hey, oh shit guys, it's raining over in Iceland right now and whatever, so, and then all right, I need to get out of the rain, I want to go to Void, is that going to be, or is it literally going to be like, hey, it's raining, everybody's experienced the rain right now?
So in the current iteration, it affects the whole map at once.
Okay.
Again, it's going to come down to a feel, a screen real estate, all of those things where you have to figure that out and balance it accordingly. Because one of the weather states is snow, for instance, right? That it's snowing. On Ice Lane, the lane may look exactly the same, just with maybe a little bit more snow. Void Lane, you'll see the difference, but in Fire Lane, snow doesn't make a ton of sense, right? So it's how do you change that and make it make sense with that in mind? So it's something we'll have to look at when the time comes as well.
Okay.
It'd be a cool dynamic to like unique scenarios like that. If on Ice Lane it started snowing, on Fire Lane ashes started falling, and on Void Lane you now have these particles falling out of the air. But it's a still same status effect that's spread throughout all three lanes. Mm-hmm. It's just visually different within each one, which possibilities.
So one thing that I can see with Undying Games from the very beginning is they have the biggest ambitious stomachs ever. Like they, like literally they're going to eat at a buffet and they're going to eat you out of house and home. That's what's going to happen here. And I love that about them. But do they have like a set mark to where like, hey, yes, we this is what we want. Mm-hmm. But this is what let's get here so we can get a game out there, and we'll eventually implement everything that we want, because that's what we're going to do. Right. We're going to do this. This is what we're setting our mind for. This is what's going to happen. But right now we don't need snow and Fire Lane. We don't need this, like, let's get this out here. Let's get it. Let's get the players, the Patreons, the Discord, fans,
get the game going,
the game and play it. Let's get it going. Is there like that control of the ambition?
Absolutely.
Per se.
With a lot of these features that we're talking about, right? Like weather, day-night cycle, all of those things, there's always the potential that we look at it, the implementation, and just go, that's not working. Whether we don't think it works, whether the community doesn't think it works, whatever it may be, that we just say that's not going to work. There's no good way to do this. The example I could give you is that vertically stacked lane structure, the straight vertical, right? There was a point where, yes, was that the ambition? Absolutely. But it just wasn't feasible in that current stage of development, maybe potentially ever, depending on how things go and the optimizations that we can make in that regard. So I think all of them how can we implement something that we want, but make it work? So similar to the checkmark idea. It's not vertically stacked anymore, but it's still not a flat lane structure either. It's finding ways to temper our own expectations and things that we want to do, while also still listening to the community of what works and what doesn't in their eyes. I think the biggest example I could give would be travel mode in Paragon. Original travel mode in Legacy Paragon.
It was cool, but it was a nightmare.
Yeah. Logistically, it just didn't work. It was fun to do for you. For everyone else, it just felt bad for various reasons. So I think, and they eventually removed it. I think it'd be something like that, where we can understand that logistically it was a cool thing to potentially have, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Okay, so now I have a question for you. Speaking of the lanes, you guys are pulling from Smite, you're pulling from League of Legends, you're pulling from Dota, you're pulling from Paragon, you're pulling from Fault, you're pulling from Predecessor, right? And a lot of the League of Legends and Dota, right? You have top lane, you have mid lane, you have bottom lane, right? Mm-hmm. You guys have fire, you have ice, and you have void, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't know fire, ice, and void, right? How do you tell? What do you guys consider to be middle lane? Is that going to be, because are we looking at top down? Because top is going to be fire, right? And then mid would be ice, and then bottom would be void. But if you're looking left and right, mid lane would be void. So how do I tell, how do you explain that to somebody who's coming from a different game or different MOBA that understands it a completely different way?
I think for the most part, being that it's a third person MOBA, right? And when you first load into the game, you're in your base and you're looking out, right? That we perceive it as a kind of a left, middle, and right.
Okay.
And they have their own names, right? Of fire, ice, and void. But when you sit in your base and you're looking out, if someone told you, okay, go to the middle lane, the intuition would theoretically say that's the one that I'm looking at, is directly in the center of the three that I'm looking at, right?
Okay.
So the fire, depending on which side you're at, you could be fire be the left lane, ice be the right lane, void be the middle. So that's really the mentality we have going into it, is more considering it in that regard, until players can learn the names and then definitively be like, oh, fire lane, okay, that one. Ice lane, okay, that one.
But I say, don't be surprised if a duo randomly shows up on void, because that's the bot lane. Yep. You get me? I could totally see other MOBAs traversing in here and be like, okay, bot lane, well, this one's the one on the bottom, sure. Top lane, I guess our tank is going up there by fire. You get me? So,
and to an extent, I think the majority of MOBAs have that problem of getting new players to understand what lane they're supposed to be in with their character and why. The why is a whole separate reason, but just what lane in general. The dual lane goes to the bottom lane. Okay, what's the bottom lane? Right. So it's every MOBA has that. In Fault, you see it a lot with dual lane goes to Raptor side. That's because Raptor has a better priority for that duo lane, right? But loading into your first game, if it wasn't for the minimap and the load screen telling you, you'd have no idea.
Yes.
So it's finding ways like having the minimap and the load screen to that, things like that similar concepts to make it easier for players to know, okay, I was queued up for this. I picked this character. I go over here.
And Jelly and I have talked about this quite a bit. Where each role goes is going to be highly dependent on what kind of value you place on the secondary objectives. Is the fire wyvern more important, or is the ice wyvern more important? And I think it's ice. So I think that is the preferred place for duo lane to go. That's me personally. What the community decides, that might be a different thing. Maybe the community decides that duo lane needs to stay in void lane so they can rotate easily to the other lanes. Maybe that's going to be the thing. I don't know. But it's going to, the meta is defined by the community. We're going to have to figure that out as more people play.
So in my experience of MOBAs, dual lane, your ADC is you're literally the one you want to protect the most, right? You want to keep this person, let them grow. When they grow, they can be the one to carry you at the end. So it would almost make sense for dual lane to be in void lane, because then you can get protection not only from both of your junglers, if we're going with the route that we talked about earlier, right? But you can also get your protection from both your laners.
or
there as
put
well.
them in the fire lane, because at that point it's hard. It's the hardest lane to get to vertically.
And so that's where the community aspect comes in of by your same logic, Bearded, of putting them in the void lane, right? And it is great. You're in the void lane. You have access for your team to come back you up as easy as possible.
Everybody has the most access to you.
The enemy team has the same access to you, right? And especially with two junglers, turning your lane into a 2v4 because they both can meet in the middle is different than.
It's a lot easier to turn it into a 2v6
all the way to the other as well. So I'm not saying that your reasoning behind it's wrong by any means, because it's all up in the air. And I think there's going to be a certain amount of it that kind of the min-maxy players in the community are going to be the ones that help determine that what is best, because they're the kind of people, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't have been this person, but I totally would have been this person that would measure the timings from void to fire takes this long, but void to ice takes 3 seconds longer. That means if a jungler is rotating or that laner is rotating, it takes them 3 seconds longer to get there. I'm objectively safer in the ice lane comparatively, right? And I think you're going to see a lot of that as players get their hands on the game.
He didn't pull that number from anywhere, guys. He knows that number.
Yeah, I know, right? 100% and not because he works for UG, because he's jelly knees. That's why he knows that.
Because he sat there and was like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3.
He literally didn't pull a number from his head. Like, I'm just gonna say 3 seconds. It literally does take 3 seconds longer, guys. Just so you guys know.
But what you mean that somebody like me would go through and look at footage and determine what the armor values and damage values are of jungle camps?
Jesus,
no,
he did that for real.
Actually.
But yeah, I really think it's going to come down to what the value placed on the secondary objectives are. Ice Wyvern gives you a slow on your basic attacks, which I think is greater than the damage over time that you get on your basic attacks if you take the Fire Wyvern. So I think, personally, that Duo is going to go to ice lane so that you can better procure that ice
Wyvern
buff.
Mm-hmm.
Which the buffs, by the way, are fucking amazing. Like when you get them, you get this like Asian style dragon circling.
Yes, I have that showing on right now.
Yep.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's like mesmerizing. It's to the point where I wouldn't be able to play because I would just be watching that.
You're going to have Mangoose watching the wyvern buffs. You're going to have Windu looking at the squiggles in the sky as they go across. Now we needed someone for Bearded to stare.
Planting. It's okay. Bearded is just gonna stare at the portals and be like.
You feel like the portals are staring back into you as you look into them.
It's a portal staring into my portal.
Yeah, they look like funnels. So Bearded will definitely be looking at those pretty hard.
I can't, bro. Get me out.
Pretty hard to double meaning there.
But I can't. Jesus. So I'm actually curious, right? How big is your team currently? Just overall staff?
Yeah, right now we have right around like 50 people on the Undying Games team in various departments and all that.
5-0?
5-0, correct.
If you're looking at it backwards.
No, but 50 is quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would I be under the correct assumption to assume that most of those people are currently either working for free or little to none, or is that something that's just not comfortable disclosing? If so, that's okay.
I would tell you that generally we're not comfortable disclosing like accurate figures, but to my understanding, the majority of the company is compensated in some way.
Okay. I mean, I can imagine, especially in an indie company, that a lot of people are just like, hey, man, I'm going to put in these extra couple of hours just because I believe in the project, right? Mm-hmm. I can imagine that's a very natural thing. I mean, some compensation is nice, right? I'm just saying in an indie company, it's perfectly normal for a bunch of people to just work because of the potential that this has. Because all these blood, sweat, and tears now might lead to a paycheck later, which might lead to shares eventually. Who knows? And if it blows up, then from there, there's a nice payout considering the opportunities, right? So
Absolutely.
now, do you mind me asking as well, as far as company structure and company size, do you guys see yourselves expanding as time goes on? Because 50 is actually quite a bit of people, you know, worldwide, even for any studio.
There's always expansion, right? If somebody approaches us and says, I'm the world's best animator, right? And we look at their stuff and go like, you are the world's best animator. We're not going to be like, okay, but sorry, we're at capacity. See ya. Right?
Or you imagine our club's already full. I'm sorry.
Right? Like you're not reasonably, you're not going to do that.
I have the best beard on Twitch. Does that get me in?
Yeah. You know what? Perfect. That's what we've been looking for.
Bro, I still can't wait till you run into my tester application just one day if you haven't already, bro. If you haven't, just look for it and read it. I promise you will get a kick out of it. I swear, bro.
So it's finding out what we need in terms of more people. If there are certain areas that we feel like we could develop further, if we're comfortable in certain areas, and the teams that are there, right? If you have a team of 2 people that is dividing the work plenty and they have no problem doing it, you may not need to add in another person to that, right? But if you have a team of 6 people that needs more help because they're slammed, you may want to look at adding someone there as well. So there's no definitive like looking for more versus not. It's just kind of as needed and as it shows up as well.
So I want to talk about testers in a second here too, though. But like, continue with the team. Is there a group of your team that is like freelancers, like that are working for multiple studios at this time or something like that, or doing work?
Great question.
They come in and they're able to, hey, I got this guy that he's doing myth structures for me, and he's able to design this myth, but he's also doing work for somebody else as well.
There's definitely some members of the company that are freelancers, right? I think as an indie studio, without direct funding, it's almost inevitable that you have to go that route with certain aspects. So there are some people that are freelancers, but we also have a lot of people that are just working for our company.
Yep. Okay. Now, when it comes to testers, you guys posted, was it a month ago that you guys were looking? Yeah. Well, you guys were looking for testers, and then to submit applications. And just recently in the community corner, you guys talked about how you guys went through your first wave of bringing in new testers, and potentially down the line you could add more testers.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you looking for in a tester? Are you looking for somebody who can really literally knows what a game is and what it can do, or are you looking for somebody who can hey, I'm here, I'm a body, or are you in between both ends of the spectrum and everything in the middle?
So for our testers, we're taking only people that are in diamond rank or above. Everybody else, get out, don't waste my time. No, I'm kidding. But so
that's why I didn't apply.
But so it's dependent. We really were searching for the wide range of testers, right? We want people that are experienced enough in MOBAs, because being that this is such early development, we don't want to have to teach MOBA fundamentals, right? Of pushing lanes down, how to farm, how to do these things. But at the same time, we can accept different skill ranges of that, because if a myth that we think is accessible to everybody is not being able to be played well by someone that's relatively new to MOBAs or lower skill level, that's a problem. If the character is designed to be played by everyone and they can't play him, that's an issue.
Right.
But if we want a character to be only playable by the highest skill level, we need people that can test at that level as well to find out all those things. It also provides the option of testing specific interactions or abilities. If anybody can pick up Talos, for instance, use his E, and congratulations, you killed somebody just by pressing one button, that's too much. If you can set yourself up to use his E effectively, then okay, that's what we are more looking for, right? So it's the wide range is really what we're looking for, but we also want people that are comfortable with going into a game that is going to have bugs. It's going to there's going to be some weird interaction sometimes where an ability breaks. Okay, why did that break? Let's figure it out. In the community corner, we showed what we called Shredder Talos.
Yes.
Right? That's an interaction. Exactly. You may never find that, because you, especially as devs, when you're thinking of okay, I'm playing the character as they're intended, right? You're never going to spam your right click trying to see if he can spam his basic attacks back and forth, right? So getting people in there that can provide that outside look into our game as well is super, super beneficial. Something we did on the application was ask for people to create a special ability. And toward that end, that wasn't because we're fishing for ideas. That wasn't because of anything like that. It was showing, what mindset do you have going into this? Are you someone who just says, yeah, person gains movement speed and takes extra damage, which is Leah's right click, right? And that's all you said, 10 words flat. That was your entire ability. Are you someone that goes in and says, yeah, so this ability, what I want them to do is when you press your right click, you're going to gain movement speed over time that ramps up over 5 seconds. Then from there, during that, you're going to keep that movement speed for 10 seconds, but throughout the entire 15, you're going to have an increased damage that you take, or your damage decreases over time, or whatever it may be, right? Can you go into a little bit more of those details that you can see the nuance behind abilities, that you can understand a little bit more of those concepts as well?
Okay.
I got you. Like expanding thought process.
When we're talking about special abilities, each myth in Ethereal has a risk reward ability that's tied to the right click. Mm-hmm. It's an ability that can be risky to use, but if you use it at the right time, the reward can far outweigh the risk. And that's what Jelly's talking about by special ability. For example, Dante's, he's the ADC for Ethereal. His risk reward, when you activate it, you fire out very fast consecutive shots. But when those shots are over, you're silenced for a while. Like, you can't use movement abilities, you can't use any of his other abilities, you can't basic attack. He drops his transmuters, which are his pistols, and can't attack. And that's what we're talking about. Like with Leah's special ability, she can increase her movement speed. However, she takes extra damage during that time. So I just want to put that out there as far as when we're talking about special ability.
It's worthwhile mentioning, and it's kind of cool to consider that there are abilities like that risk and reward. And let me actually ask you, as far as risk reward, people that are looking to enter the early founder stages and help support the game monetarily, get access early and such, what is there any sort of refund policy that's been thought out? Because I know for a lot of players, they rely on systems like Steam and Epic in order to be able to be like, hey, you know what? I didn't like this game. I still have this time frame. I'm insured for my money back, etc. Is there any sort of system like that in place, or is that something that you're open to when it comes down to it?
It's something that we've talked about internally. And until we get to that point, I can't tell you anything official of what the stance is going to be on that. But it's something we thought about internally, and we have to consider going forward of what does that look like. If for some reason, right, somebody pays for the pre-alpha and then gets in and their computer can't run it.
That's totally understandable. Yeah.
It's hard to look at them and say like, nope, sorry, thanks for the money. Have a good day. Right. So it's finding what that balance looks like, where we can compromise with players in that regard as well. So like I said, I can't promise
that makes sense. So like it might be a case by case basis, specifically as you're growing. That makes sense.
I know you can't comment on it because you guys are talking. It's literally in talks, so there's no answer to it. But you personally, take you out. I know you're a teammate of Undying Games, but let's talk to Jelly before he became a teammate.
Jelly the geek. That guy.
What would be your preference in a game like Ethereal? Would you rather have a season pass or a battle pass for your monetization?
Great question.
So I would say that me personally, I love the idea of both. And I'm not saying to include both. I'm just saying individually their concepts.
That'd be a first. Let's go.
Individually their concepts, I think, are both valuable depending on implementation.
This is the politician answer. Like literally, he's like, I'm part of Undying Games. I have to answer this politically. All right, here we go. Anyways, keep going.
A little bit. But it's with the season pass, like we saw with Fault, it's a pay once, get rewards, which feels great, right? It's a common. I can promise you guys I can support you guys with this. You're rewarding me with content. Right? And the other aspect of a battle pass is I love when there's battle passes in a game that me and all my friends are playing. And I look at them, I'm like, I'm level 90 on the battle pass. And they're like, how did you get to level 90? Like what? Because you're grinding out for that one skin. You're grinding out for that bonus thing, whatever it may be.
Right.
And so I guess I would personally, as Jelly, say I would prefer the season pass out of the two.
Okay.
But it's a very close race. And it, like I said, it depends on implementation.
Yeah.
Right. I think
I think flow of content is a big one as to which one would be preferred.
It's something that could be really interesting that could actually shake up that space that we're seeing with the new Halo game, actually, is that their battle passes never expire. So that is essentially a season pass and a battle pass at the same time, that you're guaranteed content, but
as long as you keep playing,
you still have to grind for it. So you still have to play the game, but you are guaranteed content no matter what.
Now that I'm okay with. Now that's what I was going to say. Like I prefer Fault Season Pass because with my work, I never know when I'm going to be really able to game, you know, or when I'm going to be able to grind, or if my time that because I do have my stream times, right? And I come in, I stream for this amount of time, and that's what I do, right? And how many games I get in within that time is based on player base right now, you know, and stuff like that. So like I might not be able to get into a game and grind all of it, or as many games as I need to grind a full battle pass. So I'm limited on time, me personally, right? Mm-hmm. Other people aren't limited on time. So that whole grind for a battle pass, like on Call of Duty has right now, you just grind all the way to the end. You get that final gun that you want or whatever. Sweet. That's great for you. But I don't have the ability to do that. So I'm limited because I wasn't able to get that gun. Now I have to purchase it, you know, and you know, that's, you know, financially a burden on me. You know, I've already paid for the battle pass, but I wasn't able to get it all.
Exactly. So, and that's where it kind of feels bad of, even if you played a ton, right? Let's say there's 100 levels on the battle pass, you get to 99 and you're 6 hours away from the end of the battle pass, right? Even if you played straight for that 6 hours, you may not hit that level 100 and that reward's just gone for you. And that's why, to me, battle passes are that second option, is that because of that limited time access. And so I, just as a gamer in general, am really curious to see how Halo and Bungie do it. 343. Halo and 343 do that never expiring battle pass effectively, because that could also come with its own logistics. I'm interested
as well now too, because I didn't even know it existed until you just said that. So that's something that it makes sense to me. It literally, as a business side of it, the battle pass, as like for Ethereal or or SMS or even Omega, like the battle pass makes perfect sense business side of it. Like you literally are just getting people to play your game and grind your game. That's what you want, right? I get it. But then you have the chance of alienating people, because like you're not going to buy the battle pass because I know I'm not going to have the time to complete that. So I'm not doing it. So the season pass is more beneficial monetization wise.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, that whole structure of a continuing battle pass that does not expire, it has the potential to bring even more money. And it's something Ethereal could easily look into. I'll explain. Imagine you pay for the battle pass, you grind it, you got 2/3 of the way, but the new battle pass just came out. Now you're stuck with a choice. Do I pay and finish this battle pass and then pay for the new battle pass? Do I just grind out my current battle pass, but I might risk missing out on the new battle pass? Am I just going to skip? Just to be like, hey, I finished at 2/3. I'll take what I take. I'm starting new battle pass today. Regardless of all three choices, they make money and they get your time. So regardless of which way it goes, this is coming in. And as long as this is coming in, continued progression, continued battle passes, and so on. So as far as I'm concerned, it works.
It's the way you worded that, though. I don't like it. Like literally,
but that's the way that it would work. Quite frankly, because they have all these avenues, and you have the individuals that can choose. That's the thing about battle passes. You are either going to miss out because the new content has to be continually developed for the individuals that did max that out, right? Let's say a person can max it out in less than 30 days. You can assume that by month 3, there might be a new battle pass, giving time for other people to do it, right? The average battle pass is usually season-wise, so usually about 3 months minimum is what you get. So then from there, the only way that you'd be missing out is, one, lack of time dedication, which is very possible, right? But that's when those individuals that really, really want those rewards, they buy those levels. You know how many people, like at Apex Legends, I literally buy the most expensive version of the battle pass every single season because I get 25 steps ahead. I only make it to like level 60 out of 100. New season comes out, I'm like, bro, fuck that. I'm not missing out on this new pass. That gun is dope as shit. New pass. And it's a monetary value that works, but Apex Legends works the exact same way as well.
The exclusivity of battle passes is the thing you have to overcome, right? Is part of the reason battle passes sell is exclusivity of rewards, right? That you can only get them on this battle pass, right? The Apex Season 1 Havoc skin that came out at the level 100 Havoc skin is never going to be able to be received by another player that did not max out that battle pass, right? So there's an exclusivity there.
Unless they're like Fortnite and you can buy it in the shop like 3 years
that's
later.
a whole other thing though. we don't talk about
we're not going to talk about that subject. That's totally different.
Epic
Let's not talk about that one.
Okay. But so it's finding what that balance looks like. We've talked, and I'll say it, right, but I realize it's hard to admit to, right, because they announced it first. We talked about having a battle pass that never expires prior to Halo's announcement, right? Because of that concept. How do you combat that feeling of, well, I don't have time to play, but I still want those rewards, and I still want to support the game by paying for the battle pass?
Mm-hmm.
Right. How do you combat that? And an unlimited battle pass is definitely an option to do so, but the implementation is really where it comes down to all of those things and how it's implemented, because it could be just as greedy as other methods of income generation that you see from a lot of these AAA studios.
It could easily be perceived that way.
I think the way to do it would be having stacking battle passes. Like literally have that almost like never ending battle pass. You grind that out, you get it when you're done, but then you're able to also purchase the next battle pass as well and get all of that as well. You know, like it's like a season pass, but you would literally have to play to complete it.
Could you imagine? You've been there since year 1. It's year 5. I'm still on my second battle pass, but I bought all of them, bro. I'll be here for the next 3 years. Trust me.
But, so that's where it comes down to.
Though. We should be back now.
Welcome back.
Right. Hello.
You got your popcorn.
But
there we are.
Sorry.
What I was gonna say,
guys, Twitch and OBS don't not getting along.
I know there's been an issue with OBS lately, but what I was gonna say is Apex, the way it works is once I buy the battle pass, that's my battle pass.
Mm-hmm.
I have the choice as soon as the new season comes out to buy the new battle pass, but now I lose the old one. I have the choice to not buy the new battle pass and all my progress just goes to the battle pass I already had. Apex has had that for a long time, which is almost like a non-expiring.
But you lose the rewards when it ends, when the timer ends.
So here's the thing on it. I've literally gone into Apex multiple times past, like the whole rewards thing, right? And I've still been acquiring. Could have been a bug, maybe. Who knows, right? Maybe it was actually intentional. But literally still accruing, like I've literally gone into the game almost like a year later and still been like level 60 or something. Maybe it was just something that they did with the original passes, and maybe they actually did away with that later, but they still honored it. You get me?
Yeah.
So who knows? But as far as the monetary gain from it, it's definitely there, right? Because the whole lore of battle passes is you're paying for an opportunity for loot, amazing loot, and that's going to depend on the quality of the loot. If you have these dope ass skins that people are going to be like, yo, that's the skin I want, they will grind, be like, you know what, I will take 1 less hour of sleep just to grind this a little bit more tonight. You get me? People will put in that effort. but that's going to depend on the quality. If that level of quality isn't top notch or that next level shit that you're like, yo, I gotta have that, it's better to just do a season pass, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I'm a broken record about this. It's all about finding that balance, right? Of what that is for the community, what that is for us, what all of those things, right? Finding out what that balance looks like as a whole. I want to go back to what Mangoose was talking about earlier of the abilities. Yeah, I know, Mangoose, we're calling you out. Also, my boss is in chat, so I have to be extra proper now.
So, hi, boss.
Hi, Owen.
Owen. Hi, Owen.
Oh yeah, Owen's him. But so the abilities themselves, they have the standard number of abilities like other MOBAs in terms of their basic and ultimates. They have 3 basic abilities and an ultimate ability. Then in addition to that, you have your class ability, and you have your right click, your special ability that has the pro con or the risk reward ability. So in total, there's 6 abilities on a myth as a whole. So you've essentially increased that by 2. You've got QERF for your 3 basics and your ultimate. Everybody looks down at their keyboard.
Yeah, right. QERF. Okay.
QER and F.
That's 4.
Right click, which is your risk reward ability, and then left shift is your class ability.
Which typically involves some sort of movement, or depending on the class, maybe something different.
Depends on the class. So Sky Slayers fly, Berserkers break walls.
Shouldn't the support only have the reward ability?
The reward? What? Say that again.
The reward ability.
I get what he's saying. He's being reward.
Something about Mangoose not placing words, I'm sure.
That's a different subject that totally needs to be addressed. But
so yes, so every character will have their base kit will include 6 total abilities.
Okay. No, that's very interesting. That's a lot. Like literally, I play on this thing called an Orb Weaver.
Yes, so somebody else. Right, I love it.
Right. So now I got to figure, because the F key is my ward key. Actually, it's not my reward key. It's my ward key. So now I'm gonna have to figure that out. That's interesting. So, anyways, yeah. So
you ward with F?
Yeah.
Really?
He doesn't bring G like the rest of us.
I was about to say, in most games, F is like interact, right?
There's no G I can't go that far over. It doesn't work.
I used to play Weaver. I didn't like it.
It takes some getting used to.
Unique
Logitech knockoff.
The reason I got
unique breeds
was because I'm a console player, right? So I was that whole like, this is my strong hand WASD stuff. Like I couldn't. I'm like, no, this is not me. I'm not mixing potatoes. I'm good. So it was always the analog stick, but then Fault didn't work. When I walked in Fault, I was doing this whole like fucking turn thing. I'm like, what am I doing? So I was forced to have to do it. So
interesting.
Yep.
I don't know, bro. I was just
before, and Mangoose agreed, right? Is now at concept, when you're thinking about that, you're going, okay, 4 abilities to 6. That's a lot more to keep track of. It doesn't feel that way. It's partly because one's a class ability that you use in very specific scenarios, right? Like warding, right? You press the button once in a while when it's necessary, those kind of things. And then one of them is on your ability. Mouse.
That's your hey, yeah. I want to take flight
in the flying class. Yes, that would be it.
Your flying ability,
right? Okay.
So it's a little more rare use case, and then the other one's your right click, right? If you're playing a top-down MOBA, your right click is your movement anyway. So that's something you're using. Plus, you have your 4 abilities on the keyboard anyway. So realistically, it's not that much different. Though I realize on paper it sounds like you're giving me 2 whole extra abilities. What am I supposed to do with that?
I think it's all getting used to, anyways. It was me, going from Paragon on console to Faults on PC. It literally just took time to get used to. Once you got used to it, you're not using a controller. Because I did play on a controller for a little bit, because like I tried the analog, it wasn't working. I'm like, all right, I plugged in a controller. I'm like, okay, let's play this way. And then I noticed that the sensitivity, you had to find the sensitivities. I'm like, you know what? I just need to force myself to learn WASD. So here we go. And I literally went went and do it that way. So it just takes time to get understanding it, and I'll
adaptation.
When
tutorials will help and
Jelly
such.
gives me that. When Jelly gives me that pre-alpha key, I'll
There it is. There we go. It was a matter of time.
Shameless plug. I love it.
Owen. You heard it here first.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Oh man. So we've been going for a bit. So let's go ahead and close here towards the end. Now I want to start off with Bearded Mangoose, Jelly's last. I don't know why I said Jelly's. Jelly last. If you guys had to give a word of thought to the Ethereal community or the potentially interested Ethereal community member, what would you guys say?
If you're interested,
who's going first?
He said Bearded Mangoose, then Jellies.
Okay.
So, if you're an interested member or an interested person in the community that wants to be a part of Ethereal or understand Ethereal, where they're going from there, check out Mangoose's YouTube and Jelly's YouTube, because they do Into the Ether. You alternate weekly, right? So 1 week's on Mangoose's, other week's on Jelly's. Check that out. They very high informational. And then you can also check Ethereal Clash of Souls on YouTube as well. They do a Community Corner. Jelly's is one of the hosts for that as well. You get great information from both. I literally watched 2 of them today as I was sitting here waiting for this episode to start here. So great information, great way to learn the system. I'm excited.
Well, now what am I supposed to play?
Right? And Mangoose? Hey, man, Mangoose is next. Don't worry, I'm going to go after you. But Mangoose is next.
I just want to say that think about the potential. Think about the potential of everything you thought of with Paragon or with any third-person MOBA you've ever played. Like, this could have been done. Why didn't they do that? That's what Ethereal is doing. So if that's what you're looking for, then this is the game you want to be tracking. Maybe it's not the main one you want to be looking at. I don't know. It's the main one I'm looking at, but just that potential is there for just greatness. So check Ethereal out. If you don't know anything about it, check out Jelly's channel. That's all I got to say.
Oh God.
And Jellies.
The 2 of you. What am I? Ethereal. No. But I mean, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head, right? Of Ethereal is determined to change what people know about the MOBA genre, especially the 3D space, right? With everything it's doing, it's determined to be inventive, be different, and push the envelope in similar ways that Paragon did when it first came out, right? Paragon pushed the envelope to an extent, and Ethereal is now taking the road that they paved and pushing further on, right? Taking it and moving it one step further. Every little concept, every detail, trying to just be that little extra push in that direction of uniqueness and fun for the most part.
I actually want to disagree with you for a second there. I think they're farther down that road of uniqueness. I think Fault and Predecessor are on that Paragon road, and they're trying to go that step further. I think when it comes to uniqueness, Ethereal is like those 10 steps. They're like a block and a half down the road. Like we can't. They're ahead when it comes to uniqueness. 6 people in the game. You got flying. You got literally fucking lanes that are all over the place. It's definitely more unique than any of the other MOBAs we've all been playing or even talking about. So you guys are definitely farther ahead. It's not literally just taking that same road. You guys, plowed your own.
Great point.
Thanks.
No, yeah, for sure. That's a very well made point, Bearded. Because that's actually going to go on as to what I was going to say. At the end of the day, if you're looking at Ethereal, you're more than likely the individual that loves a good story and that loves good immersion, but you still want a MOBA. In my 2 cents, that's what I would mainly sum it down to. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of cool mechanics being implemented. Some might make it, some might not. But the one thing that when I went in there was overwhelmingly obvious was that level of immersion. When you combine that with the lore, all the unique characters, you will literally just have a field day exploring the characters and exploring the world. Whether you're good at a MOBA after that, that's all you, boo-boo. Practice, right? But if you're into a story, if you're into immersion, you probably won't go wrong by simply subscribing to Mangoose, to Jelly, to the Ethereal YouTube, because a simple free YouTube subscribe could inform you so much more, which could lead you to being a founder, which could lead you to being an early tester. And at the end of the day, if it's a game that you think could make it somewhere, if there's even a hope for any indie game, it's worth supporting. Because that one support, that one extra person that supports sometimes can easily make the difference, especially in a compounding effect. But yeah, guys, that's my 2 cents. I appreciate everybody joining in. I appreciate this amazing group of people that were here. Bearded, Mangoose, Jelly Knees. Go.
Sorry.
Go.
The outro.
Introduction.
Going
the outroduction.
If you have questions, right, about the game, right, you can post them in our Discord, in the Ethereal Discord. You can send me a message on any platform. I watch all my socials pretty avidly, right? Send the Ethereal socials a message because I watch those pretty avidly, right? If you have a question that you're unsure about something, unsure about how a mechanic works, any of those things, reach out to me. I am happy to answer any questions. I have done, like you guys mentioned earlier, videos where I take an image and break it down to 30 minutes off of one image. I've looked at this stuff extensively. I know it in and out for the most part. And if I don't, by some miracle, I can find the answer for you. If you have any questions, I'm always here to answer them and help out however I can.
Yep. And those are
hashtag message Jelly.
Yep, there you go. And those are you message Jelly. Yes, Jellies. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, in the link below, you can either find the Discord. You're going to find Mangoose's YouTube. You're going to find Jelly Knees' YouTube link. The Discord for Ethereal is, if you have any questions, reach out to there. Hit them up.
For sure. Just make sure you guys send me those links so I don't forget. I'm going to be real with you. Just make sure y'all do that. And leave a comment down below if you actually made it this long in the video, because this is a lengthy one. So shout out to YouTuber.
Jellies. Comment Jellies.
Comment Jellies.
With an S at the end.
In the comments below of all of your thoughts.
Yes.
Right.
Hey, I loved it. I loved the dissertation. It really was great.
Yeah, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And we're just going to end it as always. Till the next one, guys. Peace.